Chapter 1072. Oppressive Aura Rumble. As expected, the Talisman Venerable had displayed her powerful strength the moment she made her move. The 6th grade human sovereign who was facing her was completely suppressed by her, without any signs of turning the tables. Boom. The Talisman Venerable was still fine, but the Dark Emperor and Yunmu were in trouble. A 6th grade sovereign grabbed onto this opportunity and punched Yunmu's chest. Yunmu's body was sent flying and only came to a stop when he crashed into the stage of the martial practice field. Fart. Dark red blood spurted out of Yunmu's mouth, and his face became deathly pale. Roar. The Dark Emperor roared towards the sky and a huge shock wave charged towards the 6th grade sovereign of the 100-Flower Palace at a terrifying speed. However, the Dark Emperor's cultivation was too low. She was only a 2nd grade sovereign. So even if she went all out, she wasn't a match for a 6th grade sovereign and could only retreat. Retreat. Ningyu's gaze turned cold as he slashed out with his sword, forcing the 2 middle 7th grade sovereigns to retreat. Thereafter, he charged towards the Dark Emperor and Yunmu, protecting them behind him. After consuming the Berserk liquid, Ningyu's cultivation had risen to the 4th grade sovereign realm in a short period of time. There was a qualitative leap in his strength. In a one-on-one fight, Ningyu was absolutely confident that he could win against a middle 7th grade sovereign realm sovereign. You guys retreat. Leave these 2 6th grade sovereign realm sovereigns to me, Ningyu said in a solemn voice. Buzz. Buzz. Just when Ningyu finished his words, the surrounding space split apart and several silhouettes flew out. The sudden appearance of those silhouettes made Ningyu's heart sink to the bottom. F***CK. When he saw the cultivation of those cultivators, the worry in Ningyu's heart was slightly alleviated. 1st grade sovereign, 2nd grade sovereign, and 3rd grade sovereign realm. As for the cultivators that appeared later on, the weakest was a 1st grade sovereign, while the strongest was only a 3rd grade sovereign. With the Dark Emperor and Yunmu's strength, they shouldn't be defeated so quickly when fighting with these martial artists. Dark Emperor, be careful. After saying this, Ningyu charged out with the red demon sword in his hand. Ningyu's speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he had already arrived before a 6th grade human sovereign and slashed his sword towards the neck of that 6th grade human sovereign. Generally speaking, stabbing the heart was the simplest and most effective method. However, Ningyu knew that he couldn't do that. This was because stabbing the heart required concentration and a sudden attack. He had to split his perception to pay attention to the movements of the other 2 7th grade human supremes and 6th grade human supremes, so he couldn't concentrate. Ding! How could a 6th grade sovereign of the 100 Flowers Palace be killed by Ningyu? She pulled out her flying sword and made intimate contact with the red demon sword. A crisp sound rang out. Ningyu and the 6th grade sovereign both took a few steps back at the same time. Middle 6th grade human supreme realm. Through this strike, Ningyu could determine that the 6th grade human supreme realm was a middle 6th grade human supreme realm. Turning his head to look at the other 6th grade human supreme realm, Ningyu's expression turned grave. A middle 6th grade human supreme realm and a late 6th grade human supreme realm. And 2 middle 7th grade human supreme realm. Even though Ningyu had swallowed the Berserk elixir and advanced his cultivation to 4th grade human supreme realm, he still found it difficult to deal with this situation. I have to kill the 2 6th grade human supreme realm first. Ningyu knew his limits. The only thing he could do now was to kill the 6th grade human supreme realm first, then tangle with the middle 7th grade human supreme realm. After all, every 7th grade human supreme realm was extremely powerful and couldn't be judged by common sense. Take another strike from me. Suddenly, Ningyu's eyes lit up. He injected the Yuan Qi in his sea of consciousness into the red demon sword and dashed out instantly. The direction Ningyu dashed towards was where the middle 6th grade human supreme realm was. As for the late 6th grade human supreme realm and the 2 middle 7th grade human supreme realm, Ningyu chose to ignore them for the time being. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. As it turned out, Ningyu wanted to ignore them, but they didn't want to ignore Ningyu. Of the 3 experts from the 100 Flowers Palace, 2 were middle 7th grade human supreme realm and 1 was late 6th grade human supreme realm. The three of them instantly tore through the void and appeared in front of Ningyu. Swoosh! 3 consecutive punches containing violent yuan qi smashed towards Ningyu's head. Each of these 3 punches was extraordinarily powerful. If Ningyu was unlucky enough to be hit in the head, his head would probably explode, and he would die on the spot. Damn it! Ningyu couldn't help cursing in his heart at this critical moment. However, he had no way to retreat now and could only brace himself to face them head-on. Universe palm. Forming seals with his left hand, Ningyu sent out 3 palm seals without turning his head. As for Ningyu, he held onto the red demon sword with his right hand and slashed it towards the neck of the middle 6th grade human supreme realm. Crack, 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 crack. A series of cracking sounds rang out. The first 3 cracking sounds came from when the universe palm was shattered. The last cracking sound came from Ningyu's red demon sword slashing the neck of the middle 6th grade human supreme realm. What? The remaining 3 experts from the 100 Flowers Palace had a drastic change in their expressions when Ningyu killed the middle 6th grade human supreme realm with a single strike. The 3 experts from the Flower Palace exchanged glances, and all of them saw deep rage in each other's eyes. After the anger subsided, 3 experts of the Flower Palace charged out in unison, and their target was Ningyu. One by one, kill as many as you can. Ningyu didn't linger and immediately retreated after his attack succeeded. Truth be told, it was already taxing for Ningyu to fight 2 7th grade human sovereigns alone, not to mention the addition of a late 6th grade human sovereign. Therefore, Ningyu could only retreat and fight at the same time, trying to find an opening to launch a sneak attack. Rumble. However, after the middle 6th grade human sovereign was killed, the experts of the 100 Flowers Palace became more vigilant. Ningyu fought with them for half an hour, but he couldn't find any opening. There's still half an hour left. If I can't kill all 3 of them, I'm afraid that I'll be doomed today. Ningyu knew the severity of the situation. He gritted his teeth and brought out the law of space. At a time like this, only the law of space could save his life. Ningyu was not a fool. He just hid the law of space in his cuff and was prepared to suddenly release it during the fierce battle, striving for an unexpected effect. As for the sapling, Ningyu had no intention of using it. The sapling could be useful at times and useless at other times. At this moment of life and death, it actually pretended to be dead and lied in the storage ring. It didn't even produce Shengyang pills anymore. Whoosh! Ningyu had just moved the law of space into his sleeve when the late 6th grade human sovereign appeared before him. Ningyu, I won't kill you. I'll only make you beg for death. The middle 6th grade human sovereign received the order to control Ningyu, not to kill Ningyu. Chapter 1073. Be taken captive. You want me to beg for death? At this point, Ningyu calmed down instead. He raised his eyebrows and said darkly, if it was Venerable One you who said this, I might believe it, but you, at this point, Ningyu paused for a moment before continuing, I don't really believe it. You don't believe me? The late stage rank 6 supreme martial artist was a little stunned. Since when could a grade 1 supreme martial artist be so confident? Although you've swallowed the berserk liquid and forcefully raised your cultivation to 4th grade human sovereign, I'm still a late 6th grade human sovereign. Where did you get your confidence from? Yes, I don't believe it. Ningyu's tone was emotionless as he said, because of you, I might not be able to see the sun tomorrow. As soon as he said that, Ningyu waved his sleeve, and a cold light shot out. Not good. Sensing the terrifying aura contained within the cold light, the 6th grade late phase human sovereign's face changed drastically as he hurriedly retreated. However, it was too late for her to retreat now. The cold light entered her body from the surface of her skin. Ningyu, what have you done to me? What was that thing just now? The late-stage 6th grade supreme martial artist said fiercely. Since you asked me so sincerely, there's no harm in telling you. Ningyu said, could it be that the cold light is a soul attack magical technique? It contains my soul force, Yuan Qi, and Puqi. Before Ningyu could finish his sentence, the 6th grade late-stage human supreme being's eyes rolled back and he died on the spot. Sigh, what a pity. Ningyu gently sighed as he turned to look at the 2 7th grade middle phase human sovereigns. If you guys want to end up like them, you can come over. The supreme martial artists at the middle and late stage of the 6th grade were killed one after another, causing the faces of the 2 supreme martial artists at the middle stage of the 7th grade to turn a little cold. Ningyu was a freak. In such a short period of time, he was able to easily kill 2 6th grade human sovereigns. From the looks of it, Ningyu was not injured. We still have half an hour. Ningyu shifted his gaze towards the sky when he saw that the 2 7th grade middle human supreme martial artists had been intimidated. In mid-air, the sword of evil and honor you were still fighting. Judging from the situation of the battle, Venerable you had already switched from attacking to defending. As long as he could hold on for a little longer, he believed that the sword of evil would definitely kill the honorable you. With the death of the Venerable, wouldn't these 2 supreme martial artists in the middle of the 7th grade be like turtles in a jar? Poochie. Right at this moment, the talisman martial supremacy seized the opportunity and punched the head of the 6th grade human supremacy that she was fighting with. Instantly, his head exploded, and his brain matter splattered everywhere. I didn't expect the talisman martial supremacy to be so cruel. The corners of Ningyu's mouth twitched. Although talisman martial supremacy did not look like anything on the surface, he was actually very domineering on the inside. I still have to be careful of talisman martial supremacy. Ningyu secretly became cautious. Although he had the heart-reaping pill to control talisman martial supremacy, Ningyu was still not at ease. Swoosh. After killing the 6th grade human supreme martial supremacy, talisman martial supremacy flew to Ningyu's side in the blink of an eye. Do you need my help? Talisman martial supremacy's aura locked onto the 2 7th grade middle human sovereigns as he asked in a deep voice. Nonsense. Each of us will take one. Finish the battle within half an hour, Ningyu shouted in a low voice, and then his figure shot out explosively. There was still half an hour left for the berserk liquid. Ningyu had to make good use of the last half an hour to kill as many as he could. Slash. Waving both hands, Ningyu slashed the red demon sword repeatedly. Countless sword rays covered the sky and earth as they shot towards one of the 7th grade middle human sovereigns. With talisman martial supremacy sharing the burden for him, the burden on Ningyu's shoulders could be greatly reduced. With the cultivation of a 4th grade middle human sovereign and the strength of a 7th grade middle human sovereign, Ningyu was confident that he could kill a 7th grade middle human sovereign within half an hour. Rumble. Ning family, martial arts field. Countless spells flew in all directions, and all sorts of powerful moves were displayed one after another. The space cracked and mended and cracked again. In short, the Ning family's martial arts field had already become a forbidden ground. Martial artists whose cultivation had not reached the supremacy stage would only face death if they entered the martial arts field now. Only martial artists whose cultivation had reached the supremacy stage could remain safe and sound inside. I'm so pissed off. Grandpa Emperor didn't go look for you, but you came to me on your own accord. I'll devour you to my heart's content today. The Dark Emperor yelled as he pounced towards a 2nd grade middle human sovereign. 2 sharp teeth pierced through the 2nd grade middle human sovereign's neck. Almost instantly, the 2nd grade middle human sovereign was completely devoured by the Dark Emperor. Ha ha ha. After today, I'll make a trip to the 100-flower palace and raze it to the ground. When the Dark Emperor boasted, his words were clear and logical. One could not tell that he was bragging at all. Raze the 100-flower palace? Let's see if a dog like you has the ability to do so. Seeing their companion being killed, the remaining martial artists of the 100-flower palace unleashed their trump cards. Countless terrifying attacks were aimed at the Dark Emperor. With so many people attacking the Dark Emperor, Yunmu was safe instead. Huff. Yunmu gasped for air as she seized the time to recuperate. Buzz. Not long after Yunmu recuperated, the space beside her suddenly cracked and a massive palm grabbed her in. Just before he was pulled into the spatial crack, Yunmu let out a loud cry. What? Yunmu's yell had caused the Talisman Venerable's face to drastically change. Boom. The Talisman Venerable was fighting with a 7th grade middle phase sovereign. She was stunned for a second, which gave the 7th grade middle phase sovereign an opportunity to throw a punch at her chest. Watch out. At the critical moment, Ningyu had forcefully pushed away the middle phase 7th grade sovereign that he was fighting with and sent a kick towards the Talisman Venerable, sending him flying far away. Crack. Fortunately, he had Ningyu's help. Otherwise, the Talisman Venerable would have probably gone to meet the King of Hell. You guys forced me to do this. The Talisman Martial Supremacy's face was dark and gloomy. Then, he took out a red medicinal pill and swallowed it in front of everyone. Whoosh. As the elixir entered his stomach, a terrifying aura soared into the sky. The Talisman Venerable's cultivation was also rapidly rising. 5th grade Human Supreme Martial Artist, 6th grade Human Supreme Martial Artist, peak 6th grade Human Supreme Martial Artist. In just a few seconds, the Talisman Venerable's aura had reached the pinnacle 6th grade Sovereign Realm. Furthermore, it was still rising. Boom. A muffled sound came from the Talisman Venerable's body. Initial phase 7th grade Sovereign Realm. At this moment, the Talisman Venerable's cultivation had reached the terrifying initial phase 7th grade Sovereign Realm. Rustle. The Talisman Venerable's cultivation did not stop at the initial phase 7th grade Sovereign Realm and was still rising. Middle phase 7th grade Sovereign Realm, late phase 7th grade Sovereign Realm. Only when his cultivation reached the late phase 7th grade Sovereign Realm did the Talisman Venerable retract his aura and let out a long breath. I initially did not want to kill all of you, but you guys forced my hand. Chapter 1074. Interrogation 8. There's a rule in the 100-flower palace that no one can become an 80-flower elder if their cultivation isn't up to standard. We'll see if you're qualified. With a cold snort, the two middle phase 7th grade sovereigns charged out towards the Talisman Venerable. Haha, I can easily kill you two shrimps with a wave of my hand. Looking at the two middle phase 7th grade sovereigns, the Talisman Venerable lightly smiled and flicked her finger. Instantly, two cold beams flew out. Sizzle. 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 The cold beams were extremely swift, emitting sizzling sounds from the friction with the air. Insignificant. Puff. Before the 7th grade intermediate human sovereign could finish his words, his mouth had widened and he vomited a mouthful of blood. Boom. His body heavily fell onto the ground. That middle phase 7th grade sovereign died on the spot. Not good. Seeing this, the other 7th grade sovereign hastily retreated. He had even exerted all his strength so that he could escape as soon as possible. However, it was too late for her to escape now. Fart. The same mouthful of blood, the same miserable state, and the same death. Gulp. Ningyu swallowed a mouthful of saliva. The Talisman Venerable had killed two middle phase 7th grade sovereigns in an instant, which made him feel unrealistic. Wasn't that a little too monstrous? Even if her cultivation was at the late phase 7th grade sovereign, she shouldn't be able to kill two middle phase 7th grade sovereigns so quickly. Boom. Just when the Talisman Venerable killed the two middle phase 7th grade sovereigns, the Sword of Evil had found an opportunity to stab into Venerable Yu's back. Venerable Yu was the same as the Sword of Evil, both of them were late phase 7th grade sovereigns. Now that Venerable Yu was careless and was stabbed in the back by the Sword of Evil, his strength had instantly dropped by several folds. Venerable Yu, I'll give you a chance. Kneel down and kowtow to me, and I might be merciful enough to spare your life. Talisman Supremacy did not seem to want to kill Supremacy Yu. She said coldly, I'm only giving you this chance on account that we're fellow disciples. You have to cherish it. Ha ha ha. Venerable Yu threw his head back and laughed maniacally. Don't think that I don't know. Even though you've swallowed a pill to raise your cultivation to the late 7th stage, you still have to rest for a few minutes before you make a move. The reason why you haven't attacked me yet is because you are resting. You're smart, but you're useless. At this moment, Ningyu spoke. Ningyu went straight to the point as he said, you can't even contend against the Sword of Evil, let alone the Talisman Martial Venerable. Even if the Talisman Martial Venerable can't make another move in the next 3 to 4 minutes, the Sword of Evil can delay you for a few minutes. Isn't that as easy as drinking water? Ningyu's words made Venerable Yu's face turn ugly. Actually, the condition of her body was even worse than Ningyu had guessed. There was no need for the Talisman Martial Venerable to make a move. Just the sword of evil alone was enough to kill her. I have to think of a way. Venerable Yu's eyeballs moved as he said without batting an eyelid, Talisman Marshal Venerable, I know who kidnapped Yunmu. If you're sure to stop now, I can tell you where Yunmu is. Speak. The Talisman Marshal Venerable said coldly. Haha, unless you swear a heavenly oath, I won't tell you even if I have to. The corners of Venerable Yu's mouth curled up as he laughed sinisterly. Sword of evil, don't hold back. Kill Venerable Yu. Seeing the Talisman Marshal Venerable hesitate, Ningyu shouted in a low voice. Swoosh. Hearing Ningyu's order, the Sword of Evil charged out again with the low-grade Emperor flying sword in his hand and slashed at Venerable Yu. Talisman Marshal Venerable, if I'm killed, you'll never know who kidnapped Yunmu for the rest of your life. Venerable Yu knew that if the Talisman Marshal Venerable did not intervene, she would not be able to escape death today. Only if the Talisman Marshal Venerable intervened would she have a chance of survival. Ningyu, Yunmu's identity is very special. I have to find her, the Talisman Marshal Venerable said in a low voice. Can you let me handle Venerable Yu? I'll return her to you after I force her to tell me where she is, the Talisman Marshal Venerable said in a low voice. You should know very well that killing Venerable Yu is much easier than capturing her alive. Ningyu reminded. I understand. The elixir I consumed can allow me to attack twice. The interval between each attack is 3 minutes. The Talisman Marshal Venerable nodded and said, 3 minutes later, I'll capture Venerable Yu alive with the Sword of Evil. Drip. Time was ticking away. Swoosh. In an instant, 3 minutes had passed. The Talisman Marshal Venerable stomped on the ground and his body instantly shot out. The Sword of Evil could suppress Venerable Yu and even kill her, but he needed time. Now that the Talisman Marshal Venerable had joined forces, Venerable Yu was immediately forced to retreat. Slap. Slap. After another 3 minutes, the Sword of Evil and the Talisman Marshal Venerable each grabbed Venerable Yu's shoulder and pressed down fiercely with an enormous force. Crack. Venerable Yu's shoulder was directly shattered by the enormous force. Speak. Where is Yunmu? The Talisman Marshal Venerable said coldly. I'll speak my ass. I don't even know where Yunmu is. A cold light flashed in Venerable Yu's eyes. Actually, Venerable Yu didn't know who captured Yunmu. She was fighting the Sword of Evil earlier, so how could she have the spare energy to pay attention to Yunmu? For Venerable Yu to be able to become an elder of the 100-Flower Palace and gather so many elders of the 100-Flower Palace together, it was enough to show that she was very scheming. I just need to drag on for a few more minutes and the Talisman Marshal Venerable's strength will fall to rock bottom. At that time, I can use the secret technique to leave while the Sword of Evil is off guard. Venerable Yu made up her mind. One word, drag on. Drag on for as long as she could. She wasn't worried that the Talisman Marshal Venerable would kill her. Are you going to speak or not? Just as Venerable Yu thought, the Talisman Marshal Venerable was very anxious. In a few more minutes, her strength would fall to rock bottom. If she couldn't find out where Yunmu was within these few minutes, she probably wouldn't have a chance. Venerable Yu kept her mouth shut and didn't say a word. Talisman Marshal Venerable, hand her over to. The Talisman Marshal Venerable's direct question made Ningyu very anxious. Kill her first, then use the secret technique to extract Venerable Yu's memories. This way, not only could he save a lot of trouble, but he could also accurately find out who captured Yunmu. You guys want to know where Yunmu is? Before Ningyu's voice faded, his eyes widened as he looked at the entrance of the martial arts practice field. Crack, crack, crack. At the entrance of the martial arts practice field, 3 figures suddenly tore through the void and appeared. It's you guys. Seeing the 3 familiar figures, Ningyu's expression became very ugly. These 3 figures were none other than the Blood Ghost Ancestor, Shuntu Hao, and the East War Venerable. Ningyu, how have you been? The Blood Ghost Ancestor smiled at Ningyu, then clapped his hands. Clap clap. The moment the Blood Ghost Ancestor's palms separated, the void beside him tore apart again. Chapter 1075. The army has returned. Yunmu. Looking at the weak figure that walked out of the void, Ningyu, and even the talisman martial supremacy had their mouths agape in shock. So Yunmu was kidnapped by the blood ghost ancestor and had nothing to do with Venerable Yu or the Hundred Flowers Palace. Thinking of this, Ningyu and the talisman supremacy hurriedly looked at Venerable Yu. "You guys have a good talk. I won't play with you anymore. Bye." When Ningyu and the rest looked at Venerable Yu, the corner of Venerable Yu's mouth rose, and his body gradually became illusory. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared. Damn it. The talisman supremacy was furious that Venerable Yu disappeared just like that. If she had known earlier, she would have believed Ningyu's words and killed Venerable Yu on the spot. Now, she was remembered by a late-stage 7th grade human supreme. Her life from now on would definitely be colorful. Head west, 30 feet. Sword of Evil, go. Ningyu and the talisman supremacy had different reactions. He was not dejected at first, but secretly communicated with the law of space to find Venerable Yu's location. Hard work paid off. Soon, Ningyu used the law of space to detect Venerable Yu's location. Buzz. After receiving the direction provided by Ningyu, the Sword of Evil held the flying sword and disappeared as well. East. After the Sword of Evil merged into the void, Ningyu kept telling him where Venerable Yu was. The entrance of the training field. She's trying to escape. Suddenly, Ningyu's heart tightened as he said hurriedly. Swoosh. The Sword of Evil knew the severity of the problem. He did not hesitate to burn his blood essence to increase his speed and instantly arrived at the entrance of the training field. Come out. With a slash of his sword, the space was almost cut into two. Ah! A scream like that of a pig being slaughtered came from the void. Bang! Following that, a battered and exhausted figure fell out of the void and crashed heavily onto the ground, landing face first on the ground. Kill her. If the weeds are not removed by the roots, they will grow again when the spring breeze blows. Ningyu immediately ordered the Sword of Evil to kill Honor Yu. Not good. Before the flying sword in the Sword of Evil's hand could reach the Venerable One, his expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly retreated. Boom. Just as Venerable Sword Evil took a few steps back, the space beside Venerable Yu exploded with a loud bang, wrapping him in the middle. The spatial rupture didn't last long and quickly dissipated. After dispersing, Venerable One Yu also disappeared along with it. Over there. The Dark Emperor pointed at the warrior who suddenly appeared beside Yunmu and shouted. Ningyu and the rest turned around and saw Venerable Yu beside Yunmu. Venerable Yu's eyes were dim and he looked like he would collapse at any moment. Come out. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu said in a deep voice. Ningyu wasn't a fool. A warrior that could make the Sword of Evil feel fear was definitely not the Blood Ghost ancestor and the rest. The Bloodbone ancestor and Shen Tu Hao were definitely cannon fodder. It should be Dan Lin. Ningyu quickly thought of a countermeasure. The Blood Ghost ancestor was an expert of the Blood God Palace, and the Blood God Palace wouldn't send any experts over for the time being. Shen Tu Hao was the Nine Cauldron Divine Pavilion's great elder. In the Nine Cauldron Divine Pavilion, his strength was considered top-notch. As for the East War Venerable, he was a pill puppet and had found a new pill cave near Profound Sky City. One could imagine that the mysterious expert in the void must have come from that pill cave. As expected of a young hero. No wonder he could kill the eldest young master. A faint voice came from the void, and a figure appeared in front of the East War Venerable. It really is Dan Lin. Sensing the aura emitted from the warrior, Ningyu's expression turned grave. Dan Lin. His cultivation was at the peak of the 7th grade human supreme realm. The Sword of Evil had only recovered to the late 7th grade human supreme realm, and he had fought with Venerable Yu for so long. If he were to face this Dan Lin now, he was doomed. Most importantly, the talisman martial Venerable's strength had dropped to the freezing point, and he could only last for 20 minutes before his cultivation dropped to the 1st grade human supreme realm. No matter how one looked at it, it seemed that they couldn't escape death today. I originally wanted to spare your life, but you did something you shouldn't have done. I can only destroy your sea of consciousness, break the tendons in your limbs, and bring you back to report. Dan Lin, who was in front of the East War Venerable, said faintly. Can I ask a question? Ningyu rolled his eyes. Speak. I'll give you a chance. The peak 7th grade human supreme realm Dan Lin shrugged and said, remember my name. I'm called Intermediate War Venerable. What a weird name. Putting aside the East War Venerable, now there's a Intermediate War Venerable. Ningyu slandered in his heart, then said without batting an eyelid, most Dan Lin live in the Pill Cavern, and only when his cultivation has reached. My. Ningyu immediately retreated halfway through his sentence. Because Ningyu realized that this Intermediate War Venerable didn't play by the rules. He didn't wait for himself to finish speaking. His figure flashed, and he instantly charged out. Universe Palm. Facing the peak 7th grade human supreme realm, Ningyu wrapped all the energy and soul force in his body around his wrist, and he slapped out his most powerful palm. Whoosh! A huge blood-red Qian word appeared in the air, and it collided with the Intermediate War Venerable. An after-image? When the Qian word collided with the Intermediate War Venerable, Ningyu realized that something was wrong. Because the Qian word passed through the Intermediate War Venerable without any obstruction. To be able to unleash such a powerful palm, it's enough to show that you're very strong and talented. But it's a pity that you'll still be killed by me. The Intermediate War Venerable's words rang in Ningyu's ears. Then, the Intermediate War Venerable's right hand fiercely smashed towards Ningyu's heart. The Intermediate War Venerable used all his strength in this punch. If Ningyu was unlucky enough to be hit, he would probably be in trouble. Phantom armor. At this critical moment, Ningyu closed his eyes and hurriedly communicated with the phantom armor. The phantom armor was a low-grade Emperor artifact, and its defense was extremely powerful. Bang! The Intermediate War Venerable's fist collided with Ningyu's body, and Ningyu was sent flying several meters away, falling directly in front of the Ningyu family's main door. Swish! 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 The Intermediate War Venerable's figure became illusory. Clearly, he had arrived in front of the Ning family's main door. Let's go as well. Ancestor Blood Ghost and the others glanced at each other, and then they led Venerable Yu and Yun Mu to vanish in an instant. Let's go. Venerable Talisman Marshal and the Dark Emperor didn't stay on the spot, and they instantly left. As for the remaining Supremacy Realm cultivators from the Flower Palace, they hesitated on the spot for a while, and then they tore through space and flew towards the Flower Palace. Most of them were holy maidens of the Flower Palace. Since so many elders of the Flower Palace had been killed this time, they decided to bring news of this back to the Flower Palace and allow the members of the Flower Palace to punish the exalted Talisman Marshal and Yun Mu. Impossible. At the same time, in front of the Ning family's main door. Chapter 1076. Cough. Cough. Ningyu coughed as he stood up with great difficulty. Feeling the tearing pain coming from his chest, Ningyu couldn't help taking a deep breath. That was a close call. Fortunately, he had the Mirage armor. Otherwise, that punch from the Intermediate War Sovereign would have taken his life. Good, I don't want to kill you now. I want to capture you and study you. The Middle War Sovereign crossed his arms in front of his chest and stared at Ningyu with interest. Your talent and strength far surpass the pill puppets of your generation. Even the best of the pill puppets would find it difficult to contend against you. Oh, right. As he spoke, the Intermediate War Sovereign briefly paused before he continued. Our pellet clan has a secret art that can extract your talent for other pellet puppets to devour. As long as we find a few pellet puppets with higher talent to devour you, their talent will greatly increase. Devour talent. Ningyu's face slightly changed. He had heard of the devouring of Yuan Qi, soul power, and even energy. However, he had never heard of the devour talent. Although he was a heavenly sovereign in his previous life, Ningyu had never heard of the devour talent before. Haha, it's shocking, isn't it? The Intermediate War Sovereign seemed to know what Ningyu was thinking, so he lightly smiled. The devour talent is unique to the pellet puppet clan. I'm sorry, but you won't be able to grasp it in your lifetime. East War Sovereign. The Intermediate War Sovereign solemnly said. Here. The East War Sovereign replied. The East War Sovereign had long wanted to make a move against Ningyu, but it wasn't convenient for him to do so with the Intermediate War Sovereign present. Now that the Intermediate War Sovereign had given the order, he was naturally excited. Capture Ning Yu alive. Rustle. As soon as the Middle War Venerate said those words, the East War Venerate immediately tore through the void and charged at Ning Yu. Although the East War Venerable's cultivation wasn't as high as the Middle War Venerable's, he had still reached the 7th grade initial human sovereign realm. Dealing with a 1st grade human supreme? No, it should be dealing with Ning Yu, who was now a 4th grade human supreme, was still a piece of cake. After Ning Yu consumed the berserk fluid, his cultivation advanced from 1st grade human sovereign to 4th grade human sovereign. Furthermore, he could maintain it for an hour. An hour had yet to pass, and Ning Yu's strength was still at the 4th grade human supreme realm. Sword of Evil, how confident are you that you can resist an intermediate war elder? Ning Yu didn't seem to know that the East War sovereign had already attacked him. He continued to speak to the Sword of Evil through his soul. This won't do. I've expended a lot of energy. In addition, the Intermediate War Venerable's cultivation has reached the terrifying 7th grade pinnacle human supreme realm. Unless you give me another Shenyang pill, I won't be a match for an Intermediate War Venerable, Reverend Sword Evil said with a solemn expression. Damn it. Hearing the Sword of Evil's reply, Ning Yu cursed inwardly. He clenched his teeth and said, if I let you control the law of space, how confident are you that you can deal with the Intermediate War Venerable? In order to survive, Ning Yu had no choice but to expose the law of space. Law of space. The swordsman was stunned at first, then his eyes were filled with disbelief. Even some earth and heavenly sovereigns might not be able to control the law of space. How did a 1st grade human sovereign like Ning Yu obtain it? Could it be that Ning Yu was lying to him? The Sword of Evil couldn't believe what he had just heard. Answer me. The Sword of Evil's daze made Ning Yu furious. How could you be dazed at such a critical moment? That's intolerable. 80%. The Sword of Evil yelled after being reprimanded by Ning Yu. Alright, I'll leave the Intermediate War Venerable to you. I'll do my best to delay the others. With a will, Ning Yu controlled the law of space and flew towards the Sword of Evil. Universe palm. At the same time, Ning Yu pushed his right hand out and threw a backhand slap at the void. Boom. A muffled sound rang out as Ning Yu's palm clashed with the East War Venerable's fist. Rustle. Rustle. As the two fists clashed, both Ning Yu and the East War Venerable took a few steps back before they stabilized themselves. But judging from the distance, Ning Yu was clearly at a disadvantage. What? Ning Yu can actually contend with the East War Venerable? Contend? Are you blind? The East War Venerable only took 3 steps back, while Ning Yu took 10-odd steps back. How can he contend with the East War Venerable? What's the cultivation of Ning Yu, and what's the cultivation of the East War Venerable? It's not easy for Ning Yu to achieve this. If it was you, you would have been turned into minced meat by the East War Venerable. Nonsense. What's my cultivation? What's Ning Yu's cultivation? Truth be told, many people were shocked that Ning Yu could withstand a move from the East War Venerable. Aside from the surrounding spectators, even the East War Venerable himself felt disbelief. Gulp. Swallowing a mouthful of saliva, the East War Venerable looked at Ning Yu like a fool with a dumbfounded expression. He was an initial phase 7th grade sovereign. How did a monster like Ning Yu accomplish this? Trash. Seeing that the East War Venerable only had a slight advantage in a move, the Middle War Venerable's face turned ugly. The East War Venerable was the same as him, a pellet puppet. Furthermore, the East War Venerable was sent out by him. If he knew this would happen, he would have personally made a move to capture Ning Yu. Now that he was seen by the Blood Ghost Ancestor and Shuntu Hao, where would he put his face? Get lost, watch me. With a roar, the Middle War Venerable kicked the East War Venerable away and turned into an afterimage as he charged towards Ning Yu. Whoosh. The speed of the Middle War Venerable was extremely fast. In the eyes of the Blood Ghost Ancestor and Shuntu Hao, the Middle War Venerable was only an afterimage. Ning Yu won't be able to escape this time. The corner of the Blood Ghost Ancestor's lips rose as he eerily said. Won't be able to escape? Haha. No one can save Ning Yu today. Ning Yu will definitely die. The corner of Shuntu Hao's lips rose as he eerily smiled. Sword of Evil, if you don't come out now, When will you? Seeing that the Middle War Venerable was about to arrive in front of him, Ningyu's eyes burst forth with a terrifying light as he shouted loudly. Kai Kai. As soon as Ningyu's shout fell, the space in front of him suddenly split open, and then a figure appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Sword of Evil. Looking at the man in front of him, the Middle War Venerable was slightly startled. Then, he raised his eyebrows and said, "Since you're courting death, I'll fulfill your wish. It's still too early to say who will fulfill who." The Sword of Evil's expression was devoid of joy or sorrow. Facing the Middle War Venerable, not only did he not respond, he even closed his eyes. Has the Sword of Evil lost his mind? It's hard to say. He should have lost his mind, right? Otherwise, he wouldn't have closed his eyes. That's right. Even a fool would know to fight. If he can't win, he'll run. If he can win, he'll fight. At a time like this, he can actually do something as stupid as closing his eyes. Let's wait and see for now. Maybe the Sword of Evil can give us. Chapter 1077. Swish. Swish. The medium warlord had just approached the Sword of Evil, but before he could launch an attack, his expression changed drastically and he hurriedly retreated. At this moment, the medium warlord's expression was like he had seen a ghost, causing an uproar among the surrounding warriors. Crash! Everyone looked at the medium warlord in shock. They couldn't believe that he, who had a higher cultivation than the Sword of Evil, would be so scared. You, the medium warlord stretched out his right hand and pointed at the Sword of Evil. You actually have that thing on you. How is that possible? As the Sword of Evil didn't use the spatial laws and only separated a bit of his aura for the medium warlord to detect, no one knew except for the medium warlord. What's going on with the medium warlord? The blood ghost ancestor was very confused. In his opinion, the strength of the medium warlord far exceeded the Sword of Evil. He didn't need to use his full strength to kill the Sword of Evil. But the current situation was that the medium warlord was afraid of the Sword of Evil, like a mouse seeing a cat. Do I need to tell you why I have that thing? The Sword of Evil's expression didn't change as he walked towards the medium warlord step by step. The evil sword supremacy walked very slowly. With every step, he had to pause slightly. This was to crush the psychological defenses of the medium war venerables. Although he had the spatial laws, the Sword of Evil knew very well that if he wanted to defeat or even kill the medium warlord, he would have to pay the price of exhausting all his vitality. In other words, even if the Sword of Evil killed the medium warlord, he wouldn't have much combat power left in his body. Don't be too proud. The medium warlord was indeed a peak grade 7 supreme. He shouted coldly, "Blood Ghost Ancestor, Shuntu Hao, Eastern War Venerable, let's join forces and kill the Sword of Evil. What's going on?" The more afraid the medium warlord appeared, the more terrified the Blood Ghost Ancestor and Shuntu Hao became. In fact, they didn't think much of it at the beginning. At most, they would just tear the void and escape. However, when they saw the reaction of the medium warlord, they began to beat a retreat in their hearts. Even such a powerful intermediate war elder was afraid of the Sword of Evil. From this, it could be seen that the Sword of Evil definitely had something terrifying on him. Thinking of this, the Blood Ghost Ancestor said coldly, "Medium War Venerable, we have a cooperative relationship to begin with. If you don't tell us the truth, we'll leave now." Leave? The Middle War Venerable's expression was very ugly. That's right, let's leave now. The Blood Ghost Ancestor and Shuntu Hao realized that something was wrong. They looked at each other, and then tore through the void in unison, wanting to leave the area. Puff, puff. Dreams were plentiful, but reality was harsh. Just as the Blood Ghost Ancestor and Shuntu Hao tore open the void, before they could even enter, the Intermediate War Elder seized the opportunity and punched them twice in the chest. The Blood Ghost Ancestor and Shuntu Hao were only at the 7th grade initial human sovereign realm. Against a Middle War Elder, they could only bear a grudge. After being hit by the Middle War Sovereign's fist, the two of them were sent flying several feet away. Bang! Bang! The place where the Blood Ghost Ancestor and Shuntu Hao fell was rather awkward. Beneath the feet of the Sword of Evil. The punch from the Middle War Elder had caused the strength of the Blood Ghost ancestor and Shen Tu Hao to instantly drop by half. Now that they were at the feet of the Sword of Evil, how could they still survive? There's a path to heaven, but you refuse to take it. There's no door to hell, but you barge in. The prey had already delivered itself to him. If the Sword of Evil didn't hunt them down, it would be a little unreasonable. Die. The Sword of Evil held the low-grade royal rank flying sword in his hand and stabbed out twice in succession. Block. Seeing that the royal rank flying sword was about to pierce their hearts, the Blood Ghost ancestor and Shen Tu Hao hurriedly activated the Yuan Qi in their bodies, forming an Yuan Qi barrier around their hearts. Kai Kai. The flying sword stabbed into the Blood Ghost ancestor's Yuan Qi barrier, but was unable to advance an inch. Ha ha ha, Sword of Evil, the mountains will not change, and the rivers will continue to flow. We will meet again. The Blood Ghost ancestor raised his head and laughed, then tore through the void, wanting to leave. Puff. Since the Sword of Evil had already decided to kill the Blood Ghost ancestor and Shen Tu Hao, he would definitely not let them leave. Holding the low-grade royal rank flying sword in his hand, the Sword of Evil suddenly waved his wrist, and the sword pierced towards the space between the Blood Ghost ancestor's eyebrows. Ah! The moment the flying sword pierced into the space between his eyebrows, the Blood Ghost ancestor let out a hysterical roar. At this moment, the early grade 7 human sovereign, the person in charge of the Blood God Palace in the Lanqing country, the Blood Ghost ancestor, died in battle. Boom! After the death of the Blood Ghost ancestor, Shen Tu Hao's expression changed greatly. Shen Tu Hao knew what he was capable of. His strength was on par with the Blood Ghost ancestor. Now that the Blood Ghost ancestor had been easily killed by the Sword of Evil, it could be imagined that he would not be able to hold on for long. Sword of Evil, why don't we make a deal? Shen Tu Hao's eyes turned, and he was rapidly thinking of a countermeasure. The current situation was very clear. In this area, the Sword of Evil's strength was the strongest. The rest of the Middle War Venerable, East War Venerable, Talisman Marshal Venerable, and Ningyu all had to stand aside. Under this premise, it was not shameful for him to compromise with the Sword of Evil. What deal? The Sword of Evil secretly contacted Ningyu, and then said calmly, "It's very simple. If you don't kill me, I can do 3 things for you." Shen Tu Hao seemed to have made a great sacrifice, and said, "But I have a condition. These 3 things must be within my ability, not something I can't do." Okay, the first thing is to kill the East War Venerable. The Sword of Evil pointed to the East War Venerable and said. This, Shen Tu Hao was instantly stunned. Originally, he wanted to bluff his way through first, and then wait for an opportunity to escape. Who would have thought that the first request made by the Sword of Evil would be so terrifying? Shen Tu Hao felt like a dog in his heart. He had no way of contending against the Sword of Evil, and he also had no way of contending against the Middle War Venerable. Now that the Sword of Evil wanted him to kill the East War Venerable, he would probably want him to kill the Middle War Venerable. This time, I really failed miserably. Shen Tu Hao regretted coming to profound Sky City. He was the great elder of the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion. In the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion, his status was very high, and no one could order him around. However, he wanted to be the pavilion master of the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion, so he came to profound Sky City to kill Joding the Venerable. Not only did the 9 Cauldron Venerable fail to kill him, but he also almost lost his life. East War Venerable, I have no other choice. With a thought, Shen Tu Hao turned around and walked towards the East War Venerable step by step. As he walked, Shen Tu Hao said. In the process of moving forward, Shen Tu Hao glanced at Venerable Yu from the corner of his eye. The meaning was self-evident, causing Venerable Yu to self-destruct, thus achieving the effect of forcing the Sword of Evil to retreat. As long as the Sword of Evil was forced to retreat, they could use their secret techniques and scatter to escape. Shen Tu Hao, are you courting death? How smart was the Middle War Venerable? Shen Tu Hao glanced at Venerable Yu from the corner of his eye, and he knew what Shen Tu Hao was thinking. Chapter 1078. Transformation Middle War Sovereign. As you can see, I have no choice. If I don't kill the East War Sovereign, I will die. Shen Tu Hao stopped, spread out his hands towards the middle war elder, and said, "I hope you will let me live." Shun Tu Hao's words caused the corners of everyone's mouths to twitch uncontrollably a few times. Who wanted to die? The price others had to pay for sparing your life was abandoning your companions. He believed that if he wasn't a heartless person, no, if he wasn't a heartless pill puppet, he wouldn't have done such a thing. Shun Tu Hao, is your head growing on your butt? It was clear that the medium war venerable still had a bit of conscience. He said doubtfully, "Why don't you draft your words and spout shit?" Me. Hearing the middle war elder insult him like that, Shun Tu Hao coldly snorted and said fiercely, "You are already an arrow at the end of its flight. I advise you to surrender quickly. Otherwise, the sword of evil will definitely kill you. I'm not sure if the sword of evil will kill me or not, but I do know that if you dare to make any more noise, I'll cut you into 8 pieces right now," the medium warlord said coldly, as if enraged. Whoosh. The conversation between the intermediate war elder and Shun Tu Hao was completely heard by Ningyu. Sword of evil, pay attention to the venerable one later. Shun Tu Hao's strange behavior, in addition to him repeatedly observing the venerable one, caused Ningyu to become suspicious. Pay attention to the venerable one? The sword of evil was slightly startled, and said doubtfully, "Venerable you has already suffered heavy injuries, I'm afraid." Ningyu didn't continue to say the next sentence. However, the sword of evil and Ningyu knew it very well. "Don't worry, I'll be careful." The sword of evil said in a low voice, "The effects of the berserk elixir on your body are about to run out. Take this time to rest and try to get through this period of weakness." When the time was up, Ningyu would become very weak. Unless he had a large amount of energy to support him, it was highly likely that Ningyu would become powerless. Be careful. Ningyu knew his own situation better than anyone else. After saying that, he came to the talisman supremacy's side and whispered, "There's still 10 minutes before the effects of the berserk fluid completely disappear. I need energy, a lot of energy. Here." At first, Talisman Martial Supremacy wanted to threaten Ningyu with her energy, but the situation had already exceeded her control. All she could do was throw a storage bag at Ningyu. Ningyu's perception entered the storage pouch and probed it for a bit. Then, he nodded and said, "In a moment, just act according to my expression. Whether or not we can save Yunmu will depend on this." Understood. Talisman Martial Supremacy wasn't an unreasonable person. Whether or not they could save Yunmu and live seemed to depend on the sword of evil on the surface. However, Talisman Martial Supremacy was clear that everything depended on Ningyu. The reason why the sword of evil could make a middle war sovereign feel fear was because of the cold light that Ningyu had thrown out. Although the cold light was concealed, it was still discovered by Talisman Martial Supremacy's keen perception. "I have to be closely tied to Ningyu." Talisman Martial Supremacy's expression was extremely grave. No one knew better than the Talisman Venerable that it wouldn't take long for an 8th grade Sovereign Realm expert to appear in the Flower Palace. If she had guessed correctly, the 8th grade Sovereign of the Flower Palace would definitely target Ningyu. Their secondary targets should be her and Yunmu. Bring Ningyu away, and kill her and Yunmu. The Palace Master is being held hostage by a mysterious expert. I initially thought that bringing Ningyu back would save the Flower Palace from danger. But from the looks of it now, the entire Flower Palace has already rotted and cannot be saved. Talisman Martial Supremacy gently sighed and gradually fell silent. "Shun Tu Hao, you don't want to grasp your last chance." The sword of evil unleashed all of his aura and pressed towards Shun Tu Hao. Crack. PFFFT. Under the powerful pressure, Shun Tu Hao knelt on one knee and spewed a mouthful of fresh blood. "Sword of evil, you have to leave some time for me, right?" Wiping the blood off the corner of his lips, Shun Tu Hao stood up with great difficulty and said, "I've already tried my best to communicate with the Middle War Sovereign. Since the Middle War Sovereign is unwilling, what else can I do?" "You can't do anything. Since that's the case, you can die now." As he spoke, the sword of evil stomped on the ground and his figure instantly shot out. Shio. Shun Tu Hao seemed to have been prepared. When the sword of evil rushed out, he quickly rushed towards Yuzun. "Let's go too." Ningyu and Talisman Martial Supremacy had been paying attention to Shun Tu Hao. Seeing that Shuntu Hao's target was Yuzun, they immediately flew out and used a secret technique to get close to Yuzun. Because the martial artist beside Yuzun was Yun Mu. Kai. Although Ning Yu and Talisman Martial Supremacy's cultivation was lower than Shuntu Hao's, their speed was not inferior at all. Go. In the blink of an eye, Ning Yu and Talisman Martial Supremacy arrived beside Yun Mu. Ning Yu was in charge of taking Yun Mu away, while Talisman Martial Supremacy was in charge of attacking Shuntu Hao. You two pieces of trash want to stop me? Seeing Ning Yu and Talisman Martial Supremacy, Shuntu Hao revealed a disdainful expression and threw out 2 punches. Bang! Strictly speaking, Talisman Martial Supremacy's battle prowess was much weaker than Ning Yu's. After all, she had swallowed a medicinal pill to raise her cultivation to the late 7th grade, and after the effects of the pill, her strength had dropped a lot. Being hit by Shuntu Hao's punch, Talisman Martial Supremacy was like a kite with a broken string, his body flying out and crashing into the wall. Crack. The houses on both sides of the street were not particularly sturdy. After being hit by Talisman Martial Supremacy, they split open from the middle and collapsed. Scram. Comparatively speaking, Ning Yu was much smarter. His left hand grabbed Yun Mu, his right hand striking Yuzun's back, sending Yuzun flying towards Shuntu Hao. Shio. No one noticed that when Ning Yu's palm neared Yuzun's back, a strand of soul force had quietly entered Yuzun's body. Seeing Yuzun approaching him, Shuntu Hao snorted coldly. Raising his right leg, he fiercely kicked Yuzun's chest, sending Yuzun to the side of the Middle War Elder. Middle War Elder, hurry up. Seeing Yuzun approaching the Middle War Elder, Shuntu Hao hurriedly shouted. All right. The Middle War Elder was not one to hesitate. He clasped his hands together, then pushed them out. A terrifying shockwave surged out from his hands, and suddenly struck Yuzun's body. Damn it. However, the moment the shockwave of the Middle War Elder's attack touched Yuzun, his expression changed greatly. He hurriedly waved his hands, gathering Yuan Qi around his body. Not good. Apart from the Middle War Elder, the surrounding spectators all widened their eyes, and hurriedly retreated. Explode. At this point, how could Ning Yu care about the surrounding spectators? Not only did they not leave when Sovereign Realm martial artists were fighting here, but they were also spectating. Suffering a bit was unavoidable. Rumble. As the word explode fell, Yuzun's body rapidly enlarged. Finally, it exploded. Chapter 1079. An unexpected event. My eyes. My back. Why you, don't step on my leg. My arm, my eyes. Among the onlookers, the highest cultivation was only at the creation realm. Most of them were at the Yin-Yang realm and the Yuandan realm. Venerable Yu was a late-stage 7th grade supreme. How could these Yin-Yang realm martial artists withstand her explosion? Fortunately, Venerable Yu did not self-destruct. It was an explosion under Ning Yu's control. Otherwise, Ning Yu and the rest would not have been able to withstand it. Whoosh! The explosion came and went as quickly as it came. 10 minutes later, the aftermath of the explosion completely dissipated. The area was in a mess. A few corpses lay on the ground in the distance. Their arms and legs were long gone. Puff! In front of the Ning family's main gate, the Middle War Venerable could not bear it and spat out a mouthful of blood. His aura dropped from a peak 7th grade supreme to an early stage 7th grade supreme. On the other side, Ning Yu, Talisman Venerable, Yun Mu, the Dark Emperor, and the Sword of Evil were also in a sorry state. But compared to East War Venerable and Shuntu Hao beside the Middle War Venerable, they were in a much better state. When Venerable Yu exploded, the Sword of Evil used the law of space to tear the void and pushed Ning Yu and the rest into the void, thus avoiding the disaster. Fortunately, they had the help of the law of space. Otherwise, Ning Yu and the Dark Emperor would have been seriously injured even if they did not die. Shuntu Hao, I gave you a chance to live. You did not know how to cherish it. Ning Yu stared at Shuntu Hao and said in a low voice, now that your aura has dropped to a 5th grade supreme, I can crush you with one hand. Ning Yu, why do you all look like nothing happened? Shuntu Hao's expression was very ugly. He, an early stage 7th grade supreme, had his cultivation dropped to a 5th grade supreme, while Ningyu was completely fine. He just looked a little worse for wear. Who could be calm in such a situation? Why should I tell you? Ningyu's eyebrows shot up. In view of your stupidity, I will make a trip to the 9-Furnace Divine Pavilion headquarters after today. Ha ha ha. You don't need to go to the 9-Furnace Divine Pavilion's headquarters, I've already issued a kill order. Everyone from the 9-Furnace Divine Pavilion will attack you if they see you. Shen Tu-hao laughed like a madman. Noisy. Ningyu's face turned cold. He tore open the void and disappeared. Bang! In that instant, Ningyu appeared in front of Shen Tu-hao, a fist, which could not be avoided, smashed onto Shen Tu-hao's heart. There were still 3 minutes before the effects of the berserk fluid disappeared. Therefore, Ningyu's punch was extremely powerful. Puff! Shen Tu-hao's eyes widened as he was struck in the heart by Ningyu's terrifying punch, and his body flew backwards in an instant. Shen Tu-hao spat out a mouthful of dark red blood. He raised his right hand and opened his mouth, as if he wanted to say something, but before he could say anything, he fell to the ground. At this moment, the 9-Furnace Divine Pavilion's Great Elder, Shen Tu-hao, who was at the early 7th grade Human Supreme stage, had died in battle. Eastern Warlord, it's your turn. Killing Shen Tu-hao was as easy as killing a chicken for Ningyu. He waved his hand and shifted his gaze towards the Eastern Warlord. What are you doing? The Eastern Warlord was trembling in fear. Compared to Shen Tu-hao, he was too weak. If Ningyu could kill Shen Tu-hao in one move, then he could definitely kill him in one move. After all, his cultivation had also dropped to the 5th grade Human Supreme stage. I'm not doing anything, I just want to get justice. Shrugging, Ningyu said, the grudge between me and your pill puppet actually started in the capital's Danwu College's pill cave. At that time, Kumo wanted to kill me, and I had no choice but to attack him. Now, you want to kill me. If I don't kill you, do you think I'll let you escape? Swish. As he spoke, Ningyu poured the Yuan Qi in his sea of consciousness into the red demon sword and stabbed it out. Middle Warlord, save me, save me. Seeing that Ningyu was about to reach him, the Eastern Warlord yelled. Scram! The Middle Warlord had suffered serious injuries from the explosion of the Venerable. He was currently recuperating, so how could he have the time to care about the Eastern Warlord? The Middle War Venerate cursed and kicked the East War Venerate. Not only did he not protect the East War Venerate, but he also kicked the East War Venerate toward Ningyu. No, no! Ah! The Eastern Warlord's pupils shrank, his eyes filled with despair. Whoosh! Although he was in despair, the Eastern Warlord still put up a resistance. However, in the eyes of Ningyu, the Eastern Warlord's resistance was like a child's play. It was completely useless. The red demon sword seemed to have eyes of its own as it stabbed into the Eastern Warlord's heart. Suck. However, as soon as the red demon sword stabbed into the Eastern Warlord's heart, a terrifying suction force emerged from Ningyu's body. This suction force was terrifying, and in an instant, the Eastern Warlord was swallowed into pieces of flesh. What? The Middle Warlord could ignore the Eastern Warlord, but the Eastern Warlord's current situation made his expression change drastically. He had been swallowed into pieces of flesh. The Middle Warlord immediately stood up, not even bothering to recover. He hurriedly extended his perception and began probing the Eastern Warlord's corpse. Gasp! This probing caused the Medium War Sovereign to suck in a breath of cold air. Go! After learning the truth, the Middle Warlord immediately decided to leave. If the Sword of Evil had only controlled spatial laws, he would not have been so afraid, as he had a way to escape. However, if the World Tree was added to the mix, he would not even have a chance to escape. He could only leave before Ningyu reacted. Otherwise, he would definitely not be able to escape. Want to leave? It's not that easy. The Sword of Evil held the spatial laws in his hand, while Ningyu held the sapling in his hand. If the Middle Warlord could escape in this situation, Ningyu and the Sword of Evil would not be able to stay in the Sky Demon territory anymore. The Middle Warlord's current battle prowess was only equivalent to an initial 7th grade Human Supreme. He was the closest to the Middle Warlord, so he suffered the greatest impact from the Middle Warlord's explosion. Ningyu, you still have 3 seconds before the berserk liquid's duration runs out. Go swallow the energy first to replenish yourself. I'll go capture the middle war lord. The Sword of Evil waved his hand at Ningyu, then rushed into the void to capture the middle war lord. Capture. Ningyu knew that the Sword of Evil was doing this for his own good. After all, the middle war lord still had the battle prowess of an initial 7th grade human supreme. If he went over, he might encounter a mishap. Taking out the storage bag given to him by the talisman martial supremacy, Ningyu did not care about the consequences and directly swallowed all of the energy inside. Traces of energy flowed down Ningyu's throat and into his body, then into his consciousness. Whoosh! After about 3 minutes of recuperation, Ningyu finally passed the period of weakness caused by the berserk liquid's duration. Right now, his cultivation was a 1st grade human supreme, and his mental state was at its peak. Bang! At this moment, a figure flew out of the void and hit the ground hard. Middle war lord, I said. What? Ningyu got up and shifted his gaze to the fallen cultivator. However, halfway through his sentence, Ningyu's pupils shrank and his face was filled with disbelief. Chapter 1080. The Evil Venerable Swish. The faces of Ningyu and the others turned cold as the Sword of Evil was unleashed. The Sword of Evil was the strongest among them. If even the Sword of Evil wasn't a match for a medium war venerable, they would definitely die if they went up. How can a medium war venerable be so powerful? Ningyu furrowed his brows and shifted his gaze to the sky. Buzz! The space shook and a figure slowly appeared from the void. It's not a medium war venerable. Ningyu's pupils shrank as he looked at the figure floating in the air. His heart sank to the bottom. The figure in the void wasn't a medium war venerable, but an old man. What worried Ningyu the most was the old man's cultivation. An initial stage 8th grade human supreme, the old man's cultivation had reached the terrifying initial stage 8th grade human supreme. The Sword of Evil had only recovered to the advanced stage 7th grade human supreme. Even with the help of the law of space, he still had no chance of winning against an initial stage 8th grade human supreme. Ha ha ha. At this moment, the space beside the old man split open again and a loud laugh rang out. Ningyu, you didn't expect this, did you? I'm back. With a wild laugh, the medium war venerable said coldly, hand over that thing and I can spare your life. Me. You think you can decide? Ningyu snorted. You're no different from a stray dog in front of me. I'm so angry. The medium war venerable's eyes turned cold after being mocked by Ningyu. He tore open the void and charged at Ningyu. Smack. However, before the medium war venerable could get far, the old man beside him slapped his shoulder and said in a deep voice, if you don't want to die, then stay put. The old man was the same as the medium war venerable. They were both elixir puppets. However, the old man was an initial stage 8th grade human supreme and was more sensitive to the world tree. The world tree was terrifying. Before figuring out the extent of the world tree in Ningyu's body, it was best not to act rashly. Otherwise, even if his cultivation had reached the early stage of level 8, it was very likely that he would fail miserably. Let me introduce myself. I am the commander of the Eastern Expedition Army. You can call me the Evil Lord. The old man withdrew his aura into his body and said indifferently, there is not much hatred between us. As long as we have a proper discussion, we will definitely be able to turn hostility into friendship. What do you want to talk about? Ningyu asked with a thought. Hihi, it's very simple. Hand over that thing and place it in this storage pouch and I can spare your life. With a faint smile, the evil venerable lord said, moreover, apart from sparing your life, I can also provide you with a large number of unconscious elixirs for you to consume. Your cultivation is at 1st grade human sovereign, and your soul power is at middle grade 7th grade. With the unconscious pellets that I'll provide you, I believe that you'll only need 2 or 3 days at most to advance your cultivation to 2nd grade human sovereign and your soul power to late grade 7th grade. That's a good deal. Ningyu said without batting an eyelid, you are an early stage 8th grade human sovereign and stronger than me. How can I trust you? As he spoke, Ningyu's soul power surged, controlling the sapling to fly out of the storage ring and let it float in front of him. Hiss. Seeing the sapling in front of Ningyu, the evil venerable lord first gasped, and then a look of ecstasy appeared on his face. The world tree. The sapling in front of Ningyu was the world tree. I didn't expect it to have reached such a level. It's really not simple. The evil venerable lord glanced at Ningyu, feeling a faint lingering fear in his heart. The world tree at this level was a fatal threat to Danling. Fortunately, Ningyu's cultivation was only at first grade human sovereign. If he had reached 4th grade or even 5th grade human sovereign, he would probably be in deep trouble. There are a few 1st grade human sovereign essence chi pill puppets in here. Take them as a greeting gift. The evil venerable lord took out a storage bag and threw it to Ningyu. Don't worry. I won't mistreat you. You better not lie to me. Catching the storage bag, Ningyu sent a bit of his perception into it. 10 1st grade human sovereign essence chi pill puppets. Sensing the number of essence chi pill puppets in the storage bag, Ningyu pointed at the sapling in front of him. Wait for a moment. Let me refine all these essence chi pill puppets, then I'll talk to you about how to deal with them. Swoosh. Ningyu was never sloppy when it came to handling matters. He immediately sat down cross-legged and activated the spiritualization technique to devour the essence chi pill puppets in the storage bag. Evil venerable lord, the world tree. That thing is right in front of Ningyu. Why don't you snatch it? Seeing Ningyu sit down to cultivate, the medium war venerable asked in confusion. Stupid. The evil venerable lord glared at the medium war venerable and said in a low voice, do you think I don't want to snatch the world tree? To tell you the truth, the world tree is about to mature. In my current state, I can kill Ningyu and the rest, but I can't catch it. The only thing we can do now is to rely on Ningyu's help to put the world tree into the storage bag. Then, I'll use a secret technique to seal the storage bag. Otherwise, we're doomed to return empty-handed today. I see, the medium war venerable nodded and said, but what if Ningyu doesn't cooperate with us? The evil venerable lord snorted. In the face of absolute power, all schemes and conspiracies will be exposed. Drip. Time was ticking away. In the blink of an eye, half an hour had passed. After half an hour of devouring and refining, Ningyu felt a change in his sea of consciousness. At this time, as long as there were a few more unconscious Yuan Chi pill puppets, Ningyu was confident that he could raise his cultivation to the 2nd grade human supreme realm. Ningyu, how is it? Do you feel my sincerity? The evil venerable lord did not care whether Ningyu could advance to the 2nd grade human supreme realm. Seeing that Ningyu had stopped, the evil lord took out a storage pouch from his chest, shook it, and said, there are dozens of unconscious Dan puppets here. As long as you do as I say, they are yours. What do you want to do? Ningyu frowned. It's simple. Put the saplings into this storage bag. The evil venerable lord took out another storage bag and threw it to Ningyu. Smack. Catching the storage bag, Ningyu sent a bit of his perception into it. A formation. Inside the storage bag, Ningyu saw a terrifying formation. This formation was specifically targeted at the Tree of World. It was useless against other things. Hong Mo, I will throw the saplings and the red demon sword into the storage bag. When the time comes, you will find a way to break the formation in the storage bag and listen to my orders. Ningyu secretly instructed Hong Mo and said in a clear voice, Evil Venerable Lord, throw the other storage bag over and I will put the saplings into it. That won't do. I don't trust you. The Evil Venerable Lord shook his head. You don't trust me? Chapter 1081. Brazing Royal Grade Flying Sword. The Evil Venerable used his perception to probe the red demon sword. This flying sword is special. It's not an ordinary royal grade flying sword. A moment later, the Evil Venerable retracted his perception. Ningyu, do as you say. The Evil Venerable said in a clear voice, throw the flying sword in your hand into the storage bag. I'll throw the storage bag with the unconscious pill puppet to you. Okay. Ningyu did not hesitate. With a flick of his wrist, he threw the red demon sword into the storage bag. Swoosh. The Evil Venerable kept his word. He threw the storage bag with the unconscious pill puppet to Ningyu. After receiving the storage bag, Ningyu checked the number of pill puppets inside and said, "Evil Venerable, give me an hour. Once I'm done refining the pill puppet, I'll immediately throw the sapling into the storage bag." Just like before, Ningyu sat down cross-legged and immediately began refining the Yuan Qi pill puppet. After the cultivation just now, Ningyu's cultivation had reached the peak of first-grade human supreme. As long as he refined the unconscious pill puppet in the storage bag, he would definitely be able to advance to second-grade human supreme. Whoosh! Ningyu slowly activated the spirit transformation method. He did not hide anything and began cultivating in front of so many people. This time, the medium war venerable learned his lesson. He did not interrupt, but stood where he was and tried his best to recover. The venerable's explosion had a huge impact on the medium war venerable. At least in a short period of time, his cultivation would not be able to recover to its peak. It's all thanks to Ningyu. As long as the evil venerable gets his hands on the world tree, I'll immediately cut Ningyu into pieces. The medium war venerable hated Ningyu very much. If not for Ningyu's crafty plot to detonate the evil venerable, he would not be in such a sorry state now. Regarding this, the medium war venerable had to get back at him no matter what. Bang! Time always slipped away unknowingly. In the blink of an eye, an hour had passed. When the second hour arrived, a muffled sound suddenly came from Ningyu's sea of consciousness. Rumble. Following this, an aura burst out from Ningyu's divine sense and rose into the sky. Second-grade human sovereign. Ningyu has actually advanced to second-grade human sovereign. This is too unbelievable. What's so unbelievable about it? Ningyu was originally a peak grade 1 human sovereign. Now that he has so much pure energy, it's only natural for him to advance to grade 2 human sovereign. Although Venerable Yu's explosion had caused countless deaths and injuries among the onlookers, Venerable Yu's death was not a small matter. However, there had always been a lot of people like this. Even if this batch was injured, there would be an endless stream of martial artists. Ningyu, can you throw the sapling into the storage bag now? The evil revered lord did not care whether Ningyu had advanced to the second-grade sovereign realm or not. What he was concerned about was whether the world tree would be thrown into the storage bag by Ningyu. Go! Ningyu did not disappoint the evil revered lord. He let out a low growl and controlled the sapling to enter the storage bag. Ha ha ha. Seeing the sapling enter the storage bag, the evil revered lord immediately laughed maniacally. Come back. Whoosh. The storage bag obeyed the evil revered lord's command. Just as the evil revered lord shouted, the storage bag tore through the void and floated in front of the evil revered lord. Ningyu, thank you for your cooperation, but there's something I need to tell you. Looking at the storage bag floating in front of him, the evil revered lord's face was burning. Grabbing the storage bag in his hand, the evil revered lord said darkly, in order to repay you for doing the right thing, I've decided to send you to heaven. You want to send me to heaven? The corner of Ningyu's lips curled up slightly. There are many people who want to take my life. Who do you think you are? Since the red demon sword was in the storage bag, Ningyu was not very afraid of the evil revered lord. When the time came, he would communicate with the red demon sword and have it break the formation to release the sapling. Although it was not good for both sides to be injured, given the current situation, it was probably the best outcome. Oh, Ningyu, you're still so stubborn even when you're at death's door. I have to say, you're really arrogant, but I don't know if you have the capital to be so. As he spoke, the evil revered lord's figure gradually turned illusory and soon disappeared. Watch out. As soon as the evil revered lord disappeared, the sword of evil appeared in front of Ningyu with a low emperor flying sword in hand. Ding! In the next instant, a crisp sound rang out. 2 figures were sent flying backward. However, judging from the distance the 2 figures flew backward, it was obvious that the sword of evil was at a disadvantage. In fact, he was at an absolute disadvantage. Accurately speaking, the sword of evil and the evil revered lord weren't on the same level. If I've guessed correctly, you should be a pinnacle 8th grade sovereign at your pinnacle. But it's a pity that you're destined to be defeated by me. The evil revered lord shrugged his shoulders as he slowly walked towards the sword of evil. To be able to devour a late phase 7th grade sovereign, it's not a loss for me. The evil revered lord was a pellet puppet, and an energy pellet puppet at that. Humans could devour pellets, and pellets could also devour humans. But at the evil revered lord's level, devouring ordinary humans would no longer have any effect. Only by devouring humans of the 7th grade human supreme realm would he be able to improve his cultivation. Ningyu, quickly think of something. Seeing the evil revered lord approaching the sword of evil, the Dark Emperor immediately said. In the past, Ningyu would always be able to resolve the crisis in time. This time, the Dark Emperor had also chosen to believe in Ningyu. What can he do? There's only one way for us to go. The Talisman Venerable cast a glance at the Dark Emperor as he faintly said. What path? The Dark Emperor asked in puzzlement. Wait for death. The Talisman Venerable said. How many? If he hadn't fought alongside the Talisman Venerable, the Dark Emperor would have long taught the Talisman Venerable a lesson. Saying such depressing words at such a crucial moment was truly foolish to the extreme. Keek, damned dog. Actually, the Talisman Venerable is right. Right now, you guys can only wait for death. At this moment, the Medium War Sovereign eerily laughed as he slowly walked towards the Dark Emperor. After recovering for a few minutes, the Medium War Sovereign couldn't wait any longer. He couldn't wait to kill Ningyu. Although he had suffered heavy injuries, after a few minutes of recovery, the Medium War Sovereign still maintained the fighting strength of a late phase 6th grade sovereign with his powerful recovery ability. It's been a long time since I've eaten dog meat. Let me have a taste of braised dog meat today. The Medium War Sovereign eerily said. Really? But just when the Medium War Sovereign was about to make a move, Ningyu took a deep breath and his cold eyes flickered with a terrifying luster. A deep and robust voice slowly resounded from Ningyu's mouth. Chapter 1082. A Massacre. Braised Pig. The Middle War Venerable was slightly stunned. He looked around and asked in confusion, there are only dead dogs here. Where is the pig? How adorably stupid. Aren't you a pig? Ningyu shrugged. You're courting death. The Middle War Venerable's face darkened. Not only did Ningyu detonate the Venerable and injure him, he even called him a pig in front of so many people. An aunt could endure it, but an uncle couldn't. With a low roar, the Middle War Venerable rose from the ground and charged at Ningyu at a terrifying speed. Get out of the way. Seeing that the Middle War Venerable was about to reach him, Ningyu pushed the Dark Emperor away and gathered all the energy in his sea of consciousness on his fist. He threw a punch that couldn't be avoided and collided with the Middle War Venerable's fist. Bang! The two fists collided and a crisp sound rang out. Swish! Swish! Ningyu and the Middle War Venerable both took a few steps back before they could stabilize themselves. Your strength. The Middle War Venerable's expression was ugly. Although he had the upper hand in this move, he knew that killing Ningyu was harder than ascending to the heavens. What kind of freak was Ningyu? To be able to fight him head-on with the cultivation of a Grade 2 Supreme. Although his cultivation had dropped a lot and was far from his peak, he still had the strength of a Grade 6 Supreme. But he still had the battle strength of a late Grade 6 Supreme. If such a powerful battle strength couldn't deal with Ningyu, could it be that Ningyu's battle strength had reached a terrifying level? Gulp. The Middle War Venerable couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. I don't believe that you can fight me head-on without the Royal Grade Flying Sword and the World Tree. The Middle War Venerable clenched his fists and charged at Ningyu once again. The Middle War Venerable didn't believe it. No matter what, he was an outstanding figure in the pill dispensary. If he was defeated by a Grade 2 Supreme like Ningyu, how could he establish himself in the pill dispensary in the future? Universe Palm. In the second exchange, Ningyu did not use his fists. Instead, he released his middle stage rank 7 soul power, wrapped it around his wrist, and pushed out with his palm. Voila! In mid-air, a huge blood-colored palm print suddenly flew out, causing the surrounding air to dodge. Qian. Seeing the palm print transform into the word Qian, the Middle War Venerable's expression became extremely solemn. Pill Puppet Fizz. The Middle War Elder's body quickly disappeared. When the Middle War Elder appeared, it was in front of the universe palm. He clenched his fists and shot out hundreds of fist lights in an instant. Kai Kai. Countless fist lights bombarded the heaven and earth palm print, directly shattering the heaven and earth palm print. Countless fragments of the palm print fell down. Ha ha ha. Ningyu, I knew that you were at the end of your rope. Now, what else do you have? Bring it all out, I'll. The Middle War Venerable laughed maniacally. Before the Middle War Venerable could say the word accompany, his mouth opened wide, and his face was full of horror. Unknowingly, Ningyu had already appeared in front of him. A punch, carrying with it an extremely violent wave of yuan qi and soul power, smashed into the Middle War Venerable's heart. Bang! This punch from Ningyu was the most powerful punch he could display at this stage. After being hit by Ningyu's fist, the Middle War Venerable's body was like a kite with a broken string, falling straight toward the ground. In the end, he fell hard on the ground, his face flat on his face. Swoosh! Ningyu arrived in front of the Middle War Venerable in a leap. His right foot stepped on the Middle War Venerable's head, and he said coldly to the evil Venerable, "If you don't want the Middle War Venerable to die, you better stop now." Shosho. As expected, Ningyu's words had some deterrent effect. The evil Venerable forced the Sword of Evil back with one move, and his gaze shifted to Ningyu. It is said that heroes come from the young. I can foresee that if you are given a few more years to grow, even I will not be your opponent. The evil Venerable did not care about the life or death of the Middle War Venerable. He gave up on the Sword of Evil and turned to walk toward Ningyu. The evil Venerable walked very slowly, very slowly. Dong, dong. But with every step he took, the ground shook. In the end, the frequency of the shaking became faster and faster, and so did his speed. Ha ha ha, Ningyu, I advise you to let me go. Otherwise, the evil Venerable will skin you alive. The Middle War Venerable was originally about to lose hope. Seeing the evil Venerable walking toward him, he suddenly had hope of survival, and he laughed wildly. Noisy. Ningyu was very annoyed. At this time, the Middle War Venerable laughed again, and it was obvious that he had bumped into the muzzle. Ningyu exerted a little force with his right foot and suddenly stomped down. Crack. With a stomp, the Middle War Venerable's head turned into minced meat. Good, very good. You did very well. The corner of the evil Venerable's mouth curled up. In order to repay you for killing the Middle War Venerable, I have decided to give you an opportunity. Come out. The evil Venerable grabbed at the void with both hands, and the void in front of him suddenly split apart. Hooah! After the void split apart, a terrifying scene appeared before everyone's eyes. Countless figures burst out from the spatial crack. What the F***CK? Seeing the sudden appearance of several figures, even though Ningyu had guessed this possibility, he could not help but curse. Golden puppets. A large number of golden puppets. An overwhelming number of golden puppets. The cultivation of these golden puppets were mostly between first and second grade human supremes. There were even a few leader-level golden puppets whose strength had reached fifth grade human supremes. After these golden puppets appeared, they did not attack immediately. Instead, they all landed behind the evil Venerable. How about it? Do you want this opportunity? The evil Venerable pointed at the numerous pill puppets behind him. As long as you open your mind and let me leave a wisp of yuan qi in your sea of consciousness, I will give this complete pill puppet army to you. It's not an exaggeration to say that with this army, it's only a matter of time before you dominate the profound moon continent. Dominate the profound moon continent with these golden puppets? Are you F***king kidding me? Ningyu looked at the evil Venerable as if he was looking at a fool. Don't underestimate the number of golden puppets. Just a 7th grade human sovereign is enough to annihilate them all. Haha, young people are indeed not confident. The evil Venerable lightly smiled and casually waved his hand. Buzz. At this moment, the majority of the golden puppets behind the evil Venerable entered the void, leaving only 10 2nd grade human sovereigns and 4 5th grade human sovereigns behind. Ningyu, I've given you a chance, but you don't know how to cherish it. Since that's the case, I can only start a massacre. The evil venerable seemed to be talking about something indifferent as he faintly said, although we're only attacking the pill cave now, it's not impossible to occasionally devour a city. Let Profound Sky City be the first city that our Eastern Expedition Army will devour. Chapter 1083. The Might of the Sapling Swish. The evil lord's words caused a huge uproar in the area. Aside from the crowd watching from afar, even Ningyu and the Sword of Evil revealed terrified expressions. Massacre the city. The evil lord made a terrifying decision. Only the evil lord would do something as heartless as massacring an entire city. After all, the evil lord was Dan Kai. Killing humans was the same as humans slaughtering demonic beasts. Evil lord, do you think that you've got us for sure? Taking a deep breath, Ningyu locked his aura on the evil lord and said in a deep voice, "There's something I want to tell you. It's fine to be confident, but overconfidence will turn into arrogance." Haha, I don't need you to teach me what to do. The evil lord smiled and said, "Keep your eyes open in your next life. Don't offend those you shouldn't. What are you waiting for?" Seeing that Dan Kai still hadn't made a move, the evil lord said coldly, "If I still see anyone alive in Tianxian City in half an hour, you should know the consequences." Swish. The 4 5th-grade Sovereign Realm sovereigns exchanged glances. Thereafter, 2 5th-grade Sovereign Realm sovereigns flew into the distance, while the other 2 charged towards Ningyu. These 5th-grade sovereigns weren't fools. They knew that Ningyu was powerful. Even if they wanted to massacre the city, they had to start with Ningyu. Dark Emperor, Reverend Sword Evil, I'll leave the 2 5th-grade human sovereigns and 10 2nd-grade human sovereigns to you. I'll deal with the 2 5th-grade human sovereigns. Ningyu bellowed at the crucial moment. Swish. Although the Sword of Evil was heavily injured, he knew that he had to follow Ningyu's instructions. Otherwise, everyone would die today. Universe Palm. After settling everything, Ningyu waved his right hand in the air. Swish. Ningyu's palm print was extremely powerful. It transformed into the word Qian in mid-air. Looking at the approaching giant palm print, the 2 5th-grade mortal sovereign Dan Kai's faces turned extremely solemn. Although their cultivation was at the 5th-grade sovereign realm, which was a few levels higher than Ningyu, they still did not dare to relax. The tragic deaths of the Middle War Venerables and the East War Venerables were still fresh in their minds, and they could not forget it for a long time. No, I need to distract the evil lord. Ningyu knew that whether or not he could kill the evil lord depended on whether the evil lord would be distracted or not. Got it. Suddenly, with a thought, Ningyu's figure became illusory. Shosho. In the next instant, Ningyu appeared in front of the 2 5th-grade human supreme Dan Kai. Bang, bang. Naturally, a 5th-grade mortal sovereign like Dan Jin would not let go of such a good opportunity. They punched out in unison. 2 Dan Kai and 2 fist lights. Without a doubt, all of them landed on Ningyu's chest. Swish. A huge force came from his chest, causing Ningyu to fly backward. Fart. Fresh blood spurted out, and Ningyu's aura instantly dropped to rock bottom. Of course, this rock bottom was only a relative term. What's going on? As expected, the drop in Ningyu's aura confused the evil lord. Logically speaking, if Ningyu could kill the Middle War Venerables and the East War Venerables, how could he be defeated by 2 5th-grade human supreme Dan Kai so quickly? At this moment, the corner of Ningyu's mouth suddenly curled up. Not good. Seeing Ningyu's action, the evil lord's expression changed, and he hurriedly retreated. Hongmo, do it. It was too late for the evil lord to think of retreating at this moment. Ningyu grabbed at the air with both hands and bellowed. Whoosh. Along with Ningyu's bellow, one of the evil lord's storage pouches was suddenly torn open. A blood-red flying sword and a sapling shot out from the storage pouch. Damn it. The evil lord was, after all, an 8th-grade initial human supreme. How strong was his perception? When the storage pouch shattered, he immediately reacted and hurriedly used the Yuan Qi in his body to block his heart. The evil lord had always been afraid of the World Tree. After all, the World Tree was extremely effective against the Dan Kai, and was feared by the entire Dan Kai clan. Although Ningyu's World Tree was only in the form of a sapling, The devouring power that erupted from it was exceptionally heaven-defying. It was so heaven-defying that the evil lord had no choice but to put up his strongest defense. Fart. However, even if the evil lord tried his best, he still couldn't withstand the powerful attacks from the red demon sword and the sapling. The sapling devoured all the yuan qi around the evil lord, and the red demon sword pierced straight into the evil lord's heart. The evil lord let out a hysterical roar. Ningyu, if you kill me today, you will have to bear the wrath of the Eastern Expedition Army in the future. What does the Eastern Expedition Army have to do with me? As long as I exterminate all of you, who would still speak of this matter? Ningyu's expression was very fierce as he spoke in a deep voice. Ha ha ha, it's not that easy to kill me. Fart. Hearing Ningyu's words, the evil lord threw his head back and laughed maniacally. Just as he was about to say something vicious, he spat out a large mouthful of blood and his body fell backward. The evil lord's huge body didn't make a single sound when he fell to the ground. It wasn't because the evil lord wasn't completely dead, but because the evil lord's condition wasn't much different from that of a medium war venerable. At this moment, the evil lord had been devoured into pieces by the sapling and the red demon sword. Buzz. After devouring the evil lord, the sapling was clearly not satisfied. It turned into a shadow and chased after the 2 5th-grade human supreme Dankai R. Not long after, the sapling returned to Ningyu's side, swaying non-stop. What's going on? The sapling's actions confused Ningyu. After devouring so many Dankai, did the sapling still have other thoughts? I'm going to kill you. Ningyu was just about to speak when he saw 4 to 5 Shenyang pills appearing on the sapling's branches. Enter. The Shenyang pill was a good thing. Ningyu didn't want anyone to find out about it. With a thought, he controlled the sapling to return to his storage ring. Ningyu, the things that appeared on the sapling are, although Ningyu's actions were fast, the talisman supremacy still saw the Shenyang pill appearing on the sapling. The talisman supremacy was a sly old fox. She knew that the Shenyang pill would be very helpful for her recovery. One Shenyang pill could even restore her to her peak state. Swish. Swish. Before Ningyu could reply, the Sword of Evil and the Dark Emperor flew over from afar and landed in the area. Did you kill all the Dankai? Ningyu quickly changed the topic. 10 2nd-grade human supremacies and 2 5th-grade human supremacies. If we let them leave, the consequences would be dire. Don't worry. We killed them all. The Dark Emperor raised his head and said proudly, everyone, rest here for a while. We'll set off to the nearest pill cave later. Chapter 1084. Resource Reserve Station. I'm afraid not. Hearing Ningyu's words, the Talisman Martial Highness shook his head and said, the Great Xia Kingdom has a total of 2 pill caverns. One is near Tianxian City, and the other is within Danwu College. Even if we block the pill caverns near Tianxian City, we won't be able to cut off the passage between the pill caverns and the Great Xia Kingdom. Let's seal off the nearest pill cavern first before heading to Danwu College. Ningyu said in a deep voice, let's not bother with other matters for now. Let's rest here for half an hour. We'll set off after that. Ningyu's tone was unquestionable. Drip. Drip. Time passed by the seconds and minutes. In the blink of an eye, 30 minutes had passed. Let's go. Ningyu waved his hand and took the lead to fly out of Tianxian City. Swish. 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 Behind Ningyu, the Sword of Evil, the Dark Emperor, the Talisman Martial Highness, and Yunmu followed closely behind. The battle ended as quickly as it started. Up until now, the people in Tianxian City still felt as if they were dreaming. A battle between advanced human supremes was truly fascinating. In fact, after watching the fight between Ningyu and the others, some cultivators with strong comprehension abilities directly broke through the shackles and advanced a step further. Catcher. Not long after Ningyu and the others left, the void above Tianxian City suddenly cracked open. An illusory figure appeared. A huge battle just happened. The figure frowned and unleashed his senses, enveloping the entire Tianxian City. A moment later, the figure retracted his senses and revealed a shocked expression. An 8th grade human supremacy actually participated in the battle. Not simple. Buzz. As his voice landed, the figure turned even more illusory and eventually disappeared. Rustle. At the same time, in a dense forest to the west of Tianqian City, several figures flashed past. These figures were none other than Ning Yu and the rest who had just left Tianqian City. Having tasted the sweetness from the evil lord, the sapling took the initiative to guide Ning Yu to the location of the pill cavern. With the sapling's guidance, Ning Yu and the rest traveled at full speed without slowing down at all. After traveling for about 3 to 4 hours, Ning Yu and the others finally stopped in front of a cave. Gulp. Swallowing a mouthful of saliva, the Dark Emperor pointed to the cave in front of him and said, "Don't tell me that this cave is the entrance to the pill cave." The Dark Emperor's scalp went numb. It was not because the entrance of the cave was too narrow, but because there were 3 terrifying monsters crawling in front of the cave. The cultivation of the 3 demonic beasts had reached the terrifying initial 7th grade sovereign realm. Not far from the cave, the Dark Emperor could sense an even more terrifying aura. Late 7th grade human supreme martial artist. A few dozen feet away from the entrance of the cave, there was a huge object standing tall. That behemoth's cultivation had reached the terrifying late-stage 7th grade human supreme master realm. Among their group, the Sword of Evil was a 7th grade sovereign realm martial artist, the Talisman Supremacy was a 5th grade sovereign realm martial artist, Yun Mu was a 3rd grade sovereign realm martial artist, the Dark Emperor himself was a 2nd grade sovereign realm martial artist, and Ning Yu was only a 1st grade sovereign realm martial artist. Although he had recovered to his peak, it was still extremely dangerous to face 3 7th grade sovereign realm demonic beasts and a 7th grade sovereign realm martial artist in the cave. Sword of Evil, how long will it take you to kill the 7th grade sovereign realm demonic beast in the cave? Ning Yu ignored the Dark Emperor and said to the Sword of Evil, "We can only hold the 3 7th grade sovereign realm demonic beasts for half an hour at most." In other words, you only have half an hour to kill the demonic beasts in the cave. Half an hour is more than enough. The Sword of Evil said in a deep voice. The law of space was still with the Sword of Evil, so the Sword of Evil was confident that he could kill the demonic beasts of the same cultivation within half an hour. Ning Yu, it seems like the 3 demonic beasts have no ill intentions towards us. At this moment, the Talisman Supremacy frowned and said doubtfully, "Talisman Supremacy, don't be fooled by the illusion." Ning Yu said in a deep voice, "The reason why these demonic beasts have no ill intentions towards us is because they are listening to the orders of the demonic beast in the cave. The demonic beast in the cave is currently devouring pure yuan qi pills to increase its strength. If I'm not wrong, the evil lord and the demonic beast must have reached some sort of agreement. The evil lord will provide the demonic beast with pure yuan qi pills for it to consume. As for the demonic beast, it will be responsible for guarding the cave, not allowing anyone to step into it. What exactly is in the cave for the evil lord to pay such a huge price to seal it?" The Talisman Supremacy frowned. "You'll know once you enter. The things in the cave will definitely surprise you." Ning Yu did not want to explain too much to the Talisman Supremacy. He wielded the red demon sword and slashed out, sending a huge sword ray towards one of the early stage 7th grade supremacy demonic beasts. Apart from Dan Kai, Ning Yu was probably the only one who knew about the situation in the cave. Resources. There was a huge amount of resources in the cave. The reason why the evil lord did not leave behind a large number of pill puppets in Tianqian City was because he needed to protect this resource storage station. The Eastern Expedition Army had swept through many pill caverns, and every pill cavern had pill puppets. With so many pill puppets, they naturally could not carry them around. Hence, in every city, the pill puppets would choose a pill cavern as a resource storage station, leaving behind the pure yuan qi pills and soul force pills. I got lucky. The reason why Ning Yu knew about it was because of the sapling. After the sapling devoured the evil lord, it did not transfer the pure yuan qi to Ning Yu. Instead, it transferred an important memory of the evil lord into Ning Yu's mind. The memory of the evil lord was about the location of all the resource storage stations of the Eastern Expedition Army. Raw. Before the sword ray that Ning Yu slashed out landed on the demonic beast in front of the cave, The demonic beast roared at the sky and tore through the void, charging towards Ningyu. Damn it! Seeing that Ningyu was fighting with one of the demonic beasts, the Dark Emperor and the Talisman Supremacy exchanged glances and charged out to fight with the other two demonic beasts. Swoosh! As for the Sword of Evil, he turned into a shadow and entered the cave through the entrance. His target was the huge creature in the depths of the cave. Fut! As it turned out, Ningyu had obviously underestimated the strength of an early-stage 7th-grade human supreme realm demonic beast. With just one move, he was knocked back dozens of feet by the demonic beast and crashed into a towering tree. Crack! The tree, which was as thick as a person's waist, was broken in half. Heaven and earth palm. At the critical moment, Ningyu channeled the Yuan Qi in his consciousness into his wrist, and at the same time, he channeled his early-stage 7th-grade soul force into his wrist. With a low grunt, Ningyu's right hand moved quickly. Boom! Chapter 1085. A Young Lady Roar. The early-stage 7th-grade sovereign demonic beast that was fighting with Ningyu let out a deafening roar when it saw the blood-red palm print in the air. Crack! The palm print was instantly turned into nothingness by the terrifying shockwave. Retreat! Ningyu was no fool. After failing to defeat the early-stage 7th-grade sovereign demonic beast with 2 moves, he immediately chose to retreat. Swoosh! Swoosh! The Dark Emperor and the Talisman Supremacy did not dare to delay as they quickly followed behind Ningyu and flew into the distance. As it turned out, this method was highly feasible. Seeing Ningyu and the rest escaping, the 3 early-stage 7th-grade sovereign demonic beasts instantly tore through the void and chased after them. Ningyu, we can't keep running like this, right? In the dense forest, Ningyu and the Dark Emperor were in front while the 3 demonic beasts followed closely behind. Although Ningyu and the rest were giving it their all, they would probably be caught up in less than 10 minutes if this situation continued. The Dark Emperor complained, "You should have let the Sword of Evil kill these 3 stupid demonic beasts first before dealing with the demonic beast in the cave. Stop talking. The Sword of Evil will need half an hour to kill the demonic beast in the cave. In other words, we have to hold on for at least 30 minutes. Ningyu glared at the Dark Emperor and said in a deep voice, "By the time we return, the Sword of Evil will definitely have gotten rid of that demonic beast. How can we hold on for 30 minutes? Not only did the Dark Emperor feel that it was impossible, but even the Talisman Supremacy was feeling a little hopeless. She had used up all of her trump cards. In her current state, there was no way she could hold on for 30 minutes under the pursuit of the 3 demonic beasts. It's actually not too difficult to hold on for 30 minutes. Ningyu gritted his teeth and said, "Both of you, inject all your vitality and energy into my body. I'll execute the universe palm." Although he had only cultivated the heaven and earth palm to the middle realm, Ningyu was confident that he could rely on the middle realm heaven and earth palm to resist the 3 demonic beasts for 30 minutes. "I'll believe you one more time." Now that it had come to this, the Dark Emperor and the Talisman Martial Supremacy had no choice but to trust Ningyu. Universe palm. Every time the 3 demonic beasts were about to catch up, Ningyu would turn around and send out a palm print. Every time Ningyu sent out a palm print, the 3 demonic beasts would pause for a moment. Just like that, Ningyu, the Dark Emperor, and the others persisted for a full 25 minutes. 5 minutes left. Ningyu had been keeping track of the time. After flying for 15 minutes, Ningyu turned around and rushed back to the cave. Up until now, he was only 5 minutes away from returning to the entrance of the cave. In these last 5 minutes, Ningyu and the others were practically walking on the tip of a knife. In the first minute, the Dark Emperor was almost caught by a demonic beast. In the second minute, the Talisman Martial Supremacy was struck in the right arm by the cold gleam spat out by the demonic beast, causing his arm to stiffen and be unable to move. In the third minute, Ningyu dodged 3 streaks of cold gleam. In the fourth and fifth minute, Ningyu, the Talisman Martial Supremacy, and the rest, each suffered an attack from the demonic beast. Sword of Evil. Although they were struck by the demonic beast, Ningyu and the rest still staggered back to the front of the cave. Ningyu yelled, "Hurry up and come out." However, no matter how Ningyu yelled, there was no response to him. Swoosh. Ning Yu hurriedly released his perception power and probed inside the cave. I'm F** King crazy. As soon as his perception power entered the cave, Ning Yu cursed. Because the cave was as empty as the wilderness. There was nothing at all. Where's the Sword of Evil? Ning Yu was a little puzzled. The Sword of Evil was fighting with the late-stage 7th grade supreme demonic beast in the cave. Why was there no trace of him now? Hihi, you're very puzzled, aren't you? At this moment, a faint laughter came from inside the cave. Who's there? Hearing the laughter, Ning Yu's expression turned ugly as he stared at the entrance of the cave. Rustle. A moment later, a young lady walked out of the cave slowly. Roar. After the young lady came out, the 3 early-stage 7th grade supreme demonic beasts behind Ning Yu and the rest all roared at the sky and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Gasp. Ning Yu sucked in a breath of cold air when he sensed the powerful aura emanating from the young woman. Early-stage 8th grade supreme demonic beast. The young lady's cultivation had reached the terrifying early-stage 8th grade supreme demonic beast. The Sword of Evil was only a late-stage 7th grade supreme demonic beast. He had no chance of winning against the young lady who was an early-stage 8th grade supreme demonic beast. I got it. Suddenly, the Talisman Supremacy shouted, You're from the Flower Palace. You were sent by the Palace Master. Swish. As the Talisman Supremacy shouted, Ning Yu's heart sank to the bottom. If the young lady and Supremacy Yu were the same kind of people, then they would really be doomed today. Talisman Supremacy. The young lady shifted her gaze towards the Talisman Supremacy and said indifferently, You were sent by the Palace Master to look for the cauldrons. Now, you're actually together with the cauldrons and even joined forces with them to kill Supremacy Yu and the others. I have to say, you're really bold. Forget it. When she spoke up to hear, the young lady waved her hand and said, Out of consideration for the fact that we're disciples of the Flower Palace, I can spare your lives. Are you a subordinate of the Palace Master or that mysterious expert? At this moment, the Talisman Supremacy had calmed down instead. She took a deep breath and said in a low voice, If you're a subordinate of the Palace Master, then I'll listen to you if you want to kill me. But if you're a subordinate of that mysterious expert, then I'll teach you a lesson even if I have to risk my life. The young lady frowned slightly and didn't reply the Talisman Supremacy at the first possible moment. Instead, she fell into deep thought. Alas! After a short while, the young lady sighed lightly and said, To be precise, I'm not a subordinate of the Palace Master, nor am I a subordinate of that mysterious expert. What do you mean? The Talisman Supremacy spoke coldly. It couldn't be any simpler. Ning Yu took a step forward and said, She's a double agent. She's related to the Palace Master of the Flower Palace and that mysterious expert as well. You're very smart. The young lady nodded. Now I want to know where you've hidden the Sword of Evil. Ning Yu was puzzled. The young lady's following words caused Ning Yu's expression to become extremely unsightly. Truthfully speaking, I don't know who the Sword of Evil you speak of is. Because this cave was empty when I arrived here, and there was nothing there. The young lady said, I was mainly waiting here for your arrival. How did you know we would return? Ning Yu spoke in a low voice. Our Flower Palace possesses a unique secret technique, and I can rely on it to track the location of any holy maiden, said the young lady indifferently. Right, where's Yunmu? The expressions of the Talisman Supremacy and Ning Yu changed in unison when they heard the young lady. Because they didn't see Yunmu in this area. Chapter 1086. Base Camp. The questions that you guys have asked are also what I want to ask. The lady said with her brows slightly knitted. You want to ask as well? Ning Yu and Venerable Talisman Marshal were dumbfounded. Judging from the lady's tone, she didn't seem to be lying. Furthermore, there was no need for her to lie with her cultivation. Earlier, you guys mentioned that the Sword of Evil is in the cave. I've indeed discovered traces of a battle between experts in the cave. Looks like you guys aren't lying. The lady continued, Let me introduce myself. You guys can call me Xielan. Before we find Yunmu, the two of you have to listen to my instructions. As she spoke, Xielan briefly paused before pointing at the Dark Emperor. That includes that dog. Russell. The Dark Emperor's face was unsightly, but there was nothing he could do. Under the pressure of an initial phase 8th grade sovereign, he couldn't put up any effective resistance. As the saying went, when under someone else's roof, he had no choice but to lower his head. There's something strange about this cave. The three of you, follow me into the cave. After a brief hesitation, Xielan's silhouette flashed and she flew into the cave. Ningyu and Venerable Talisman Marshal exchanged a look and could see the helplessness in each other's eyes. Rustle, rustle, rustle. In the end, Ningyu, Venerable Talisman Marshal, and the Dark Emperor followed behind Xielan and entered the cave. Darkness. When Ningyu and the rest entered the cave, their first impression was that it was dark. Extremely dark. Their second impression was that it was extremely dark. This darkness wasn't ordinary. That's because ordinary darkness only required crystals or energy to illuminate the path. This darkness was the kind that even senses couldn't move an inch. Follow me closely. If anyone gets lost, don't blame me for squatting. As an 8th grade sovereign, Xielan's senses were powerful, and she could sense a 10-meter radius. But before she could finish her words, her face drastically changed and she immediately yelled out. Whoosh! Along with Xielan's yell, countless arrows shot out from the walls on both sides of the cave and swiftly streaked through space. Block. The Yuan Qi in Xielan's spiritual sea emerged, forming a protective Yuan Qi barrier over her head. Although the arrow was huge, it was still defeated by Xielan's protective barrier. Whew! Xielan let out a long sigh of relief. Even though she was an 8th grade sovereign, she didn't dare to be distracted in such a dangerous place. Because the slightest bit of distraction could very possibly lead to a tragic death. Damn it! If it weren't for Palace Master and the mysterious expert specifically asking to bring me back to Yunmu, I wouldn't have foolishly charged into the Pill Venom's resource reserve station. Xielan's expression was ugly. As an 8th grade sovereign, Xielan naturally knew that this cave was connected to the Pill Cave, which was the resource storage station of the Pill Puppet in the Great Xia Kingdom. Dan, who was a terrifying existence. Their resource reserve station must be full of traps. If he guessed correctly, there must be a powerful pill puppet guarding the entrance of the Pill Cave. Thank you, Senior. Can you think of a way to light up the surroundings? It's too dangerous for us to advance like this. Ningyu was well aware of his current situation. There was no turning back. Xielan was powerful, but Ningyu believed that Xielan wouldn't care about them if they were in a life-and-death situation. Therefore, it was better to get rid of some obstacles before they encountered danger. I have no choice. Xielan didn't want to be entangled with Ningyu and the rest. She said in a deep voice, "Don't go more than 3 meters away from me. Otherwise, I won't be responsible for your lives." After that, Xielan walked into the depths of the cave without looking back. Ningyu, do you really have a way to light up the cave? Venerable Talisman Marshal frowned and asked doubtfully. I do, but it's a little difficult. Ningyu said. What's the difficulty? Venerable Talisman Marshal asked. It requires you to inject all your energy into my body, and I'll execute a secret technique to have a 10% chance of lighting up the cave, Ningyu said solemnly. Venerable Talisman Marshal's face darkened. This was a method. He was just making fun of her. Sigh, let's go. I hope nothing happens to Yunmu and the Sword of Evil. Sighing, Ningyu quickly walked into the depths of the cave. Rustle. In the pitch-black cave, 4 figures were moving forward slowly. The one at the front was naturally the early-stage 8th grade human sovereign, Xielan. Behind Xielan were Ningyu, the Dark Emperor, and Venerable Talisman Marshal. Along the way, the Dark Emperor didn't say a word. No one knew what he was thinking. Seeing the Dark Emperor like this, Ningyu didn't disturb him. Instead, he kept communicating with the Sword of Evil, hoping to contact the Sword of Evil. After all, the Sword of Evil was the strongest fighting force on their side, and he had the Law of Space. Unfortunately, not only could Ningyu not contact the Sword of Evil, he couldn't even contact the Law of Space. Swish. At this moment, several beams of light suddenly shone into the originally pitch-black cave. Every beam of light was as thick as a person's waist, illuminating the pitch-black cave. The Sword of Evil. After the cave was illuminated, Ningyu shifted his gaze to the front, and his expression changed drastically as he exclaimed in shock. In the narrow passage ahead, the Sword of Evil's eyes were dim and his clothes were tattered. There was a blood-red mark on his forehead. The pill puppet mark. Looking at the mark on the Sword of Evil's forehead, Ningyu's heart sank to the bottom. The pill puppet mark was a vicious mark of the pill puppets. Unless the pill puppet who used the mark was killed and forcefully injected energy into the cultivator's body, there was no way to break the pill puppet mark. Of course, it was extremely difficult to kill a pill puppet who used the mark. Every pill puppet who was qualified to use the pill puppet mark had to be at least a peak 7th grade human sovereign. Crack. As soon as Ningyu's voice fell, the space in front of the Sword of Evil suddenly split open, and a figure slowly appeared. As expected. Sensing the aura emitted by the pill puppet, Ningyu's expression turned ugly. Peak 7th grade human sovereign. This pill puppet had a peak 7th grade human sovereign cultivation. Crack, crack, crack. Just as Ningyu thought he was going to have a huge battle with the pill puppet, the space behind the Sword of Evil split open again. 3 equally powerful pill puppets appeared in this area. Without a doubt. The 3 pill puppets that appeared later also had a terrifying peak 7th grade human sovereign cultivation. The appearance of 4 peak 7th grade human sovereigns made Ningyu's heart sink to the bottom. With 4 pill puppets working together, even Xielan, an early 8th grade human sovereign, might die. Chapter 1087. 1,000 wolves. The 3 of you, step back. I'll deal with these people. At the critical moment, Xielan took a deep breath and said in a low voice. Rumble. At this moment, the space in front of the 4 pinnacle 7th grade human sovereign Dan Kai cracked again. This time, the crack was huge. Then, an unusually large pill puppet slowly walked out of the space. Hiss. Xielan's face turned ugly when she sensed the terrifying aura emitted from the Dan Kai, an initial 8th grade human sovereign. The Dan Kai's cultivation had reached the initial 8th grade human sovereign realm. Xielan could deal with the 4 pinnacle 7th grade human sovereigns, and she could even kill them with a secret technique. But if there was another initial 8th grade human sovereign, even Xielan would be a little worried. Human, I know why you're here, but I'm sorry to tell you that this resource storage station is guarded by us. You're destined to never return. A powerful voice came from the initial 8th grade human sovereign. I want to know where the young lady outside the cave is, Xielan said. That lass. The initial 8th grade human sovereign Dan Kai was slightly stunned. I've already thrown her into the pill cave. She should be being chased by the Dan Kai right now. Who knows, she might have already become its meal. Ningyu, I'll think of a way to force them to retreat. You and the talisman supremacy enter the pill cave. You must find Yunmu and bring her out. Xielan's eyes darted around as she tried to think of a countermeasure. Her main target was Yunmu, and her secondary target was Ningyu. Now that Yunmu was thrown into the pill cave, she couldn't go over by herself, so she could only seek help from Ningyu and the talisman supremacy. 3 hours. I can only last for 3 hours. Xielan knew her limits. Under the siege of so many powerful Dan Kai, it was already her limit to last 3 hours. No problem. Now that things had come to this, Ningyu and Supremacy Talisman Marshal, they all had no other choice. They could only bite the bullet and enter the pill cavern, this path. All of you, step back. Watch my eyes. Xielan said in a low voice. Go. Obviously, Danny couldn't wait any longer. It was especially so for the early stage 8th grade human sovereign, Dan Ming. He was the first to charge towards Xielan. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Behind him, 4 peak 7th grade human supreme venerable Dan puppets charged out at the same time. Their target was very clear, Xielan. After all, Ningyu and the talisman martial supremacy were not qualified enough to deal with them. They were not worth their time. As long as he killed Xielan first, then went to kill Ningyu and the others, wouldn't that be a piece of cake? 100 flowers bloom. No matter what, Xielan was an initial phase 8th grade sovereign. She raised her hands and barked. Huala. Following Xielan's shout, countless flower petals appeared out of thin air. Insignificant skill. The initial phase 8th grade sovereign realm Dan Kai lightly smiled. If your cultivation had reached the middle phase 8th grade sovereign realm, perhaps I might be fearful. But as of now, you're not my opponent. Shio. Finishing his words, the Dan Kai turned into an afterimage and charged towards Xielan. At the same time, the other 4 Dan puppets followed suit and charged towards Xielan as well. Ningyu, talisman martial supremacy, if you don't enter the pill cave now, then when? Seeing that the 5 Dan puppets had placed their attention on her, Xielan immediately sent a voice transmission to Ningyu and the talisman martial supremacy. Let's go. Ningyu wasn't an indecisive person. He stomped his feet on the ground and instantly charged forth. Bring the sword of evil. When he passed by the sword of evil, Ningyu grabbed onto the sword of evil's shoulder and dragged him into the pill cave. Crack. When Ningyu and the rest entered the pill cave, the entrance was completely sealed. Haha. Looks like your friend is also a fool. There are quite a few 5th grade sovereign Dan puppets in the pill cave. Your friend probably wouldn't even last 10 minutes in there. Seeing that Ningyu and the talisman martial supremacy had entered the pill cave, the initial phase 8th grade sovereign Dan puppet smiled. You'd better care about yourself. 1,000 flowers bloom. The energy in Xielan's sea of consciousness violently surged as she formed seals with both her hands and executed a terrifying magical art. Boom. While Xielan and Dan puppet were fighting, Ningyu and the talisman martial supremacy had only taken a few steps forward when they encountered trouble. Looking at the Dan puppet's army, the talisman martial supremacy's face was extremely dark. Ningyu, I can sense that Yun Mu is right behind the Dan puppet's army. I know that even without you telling me. Ningyu's face was also extremely unsightly. Although the cultivation of the Dan puppet's army wasn't high, they were all around 2nd grade sovereign realm. But with so many Dan puppets attacking together, they could still display a terrifying fighting strength. Swish. All of a sudden, the sapling struggled free from the storage ring and floated in front of Ningyu. That's right, the sapling. How did I forget about that? Ningyu nearly jumped up when he saw the sapling. The sapling was the bane of the Dan puppets. Even the Middle War sovereigns and East War sovereigns couldn't escape from being devoured by the sapling. One could imagine how terrified the Dan puppets were when facing the sapling. Boom. Things were just as Ningyu had guessed. When the Dan puppets' army saw the sapling, they all revealed terrified expressions. Some of the weaker pill puppets even turned around and fled into the distance. Everyone, don't panic. As long as we capture that cultivator, the sapling will lose its power. There was also a leader among the Dan puppets. A Dan puppet with a cultivation of 3rd grade sovereign walked out from the Dan puppets' army and said in a deep voice, "This pill cave is our Dan puppets' resource storage station. Here, we have an endless supply of energy. That young cultivator is only a 1st grade sovereign realm cultivator. How can he fight against us? You're their leader." Ningyu didn't let the sapling unleash its power for the time being. He wanted to find out how many resources there were in this pill cave. After all, it was known as the Dan puppets' resource storage station. There would definitely be a lot of resources inside. You can call me 1000 Wolf Venerable. The Dan puppet with a cultivation of 3rd grade sovereign realm said faintly. 1000 Wolf Venerable? Ningyu was slightly stunned. Then, he said calmly, "There's something I want to ask. This is the Dan puppets' resource storage station. Why would you shrimp soldiers and crab generals be guarding it? Could it be that the Dan puppets are all dead? Or are you guys very confident in your own strength?" Crack. Ningyu's questions made the 1000 Wolf Venerable's face turn extremely gloomy. "You're just a 1st grade sovereign realm cultivator. What right do you have to say such words to me? No matter what, my cultivation is stronger than yours. You're very arrogant. However, I, the 1000 Wolf Venerable, like to fight with those who think that they're very strong." Chapter 1088. Formation. Are you sure you want to have a fair duel with me? Ningyu looked at Venerable 1000 Wolf with interest as he crossed his arms before his chest and said, "Although I'm only a grade 1 mortal sovereign, you're not much better. You're only a grade 3 mortal sovereign. Ha, overconfidence. Venerable Thousand Wolves said with a smile. There are at least 80 first-grade sovereigns that have died in my hands. I don't even need to use my full strength to kill you. I can have a fair duel with you, but before that, I want to see Yun Mu. Ning Yu said without any change in his expression. Yun Mu? Which one is Yun Mu? Venerable Thousand Wolf knitted his brows. The woman behind you is Yun Mu. Ning Yu pointed behind Venerable Thousand Wolf. Oh, you should have said so earlier. Venerable Thousand Wolves came to a sudden realization. Then, he said to the people around him, bring that woman over. Russell. Hearing Venerable Thousand Wolf's words, the 2 second-grade sovereign pellet puppets rapidly moved and disappeared in an instant. Soon, Yun Mu was brought before Venerable Thousand Wolf. Have a fair duel with me. As long as you can defeat me, I'll immediately let her go. Venerable Thousand Wolf's tone was emotionless as he spoke. No problem. Truth be told, Ning Yu didn't need to use his full strength against a third-grade sovereign like Venerable Thousand Wolf. In fact, he didn't even need to use 30% of his strength. The reason why Ning Yu didn't make a move right away was because he didn't want to alarm Venerable Thousand Wolf and the rest. After all, with Venerable Talisman Marshal here, it wouldn't be right if he didn't save Yun Mu. Set up the formation. Right at this moment, Exalt Thousand Wolf waved his hand and spoke in a low voice. Russell. As Venerable Thousand Wolf said those 2 words, the several pill puppets beside him started to move quickly. 3 minutes later, a circular platform rose from the ground. On the high platform, Venerable Thousand Wolf placed his hands behind his back and said proudly, Kid, don't say that I didn't warn you. This array formation is very special. Once someone enters, someone must die to break it. As long as no one dies, the array formation will continue to exist. Talisman Marshal Sovereign, Dark Emperor, both of you must be careful when I enter the formation. If anything happens, immediately save Yun Mu. Ning Yu narrowed his eyes and secretly transmitted his voice to the Dark Emperor and the Talisman Marshal Supremacy. When the time comes, I will let the sapling help you. Shio. With that said, Ning Yu stomped on the ground and flew to the high platform in the blink of an eye. You are very confident in your own strength. Venerable Thousand Wolves stared at Ning Yu and said indifferently, but now that you're facing me, you're destined to die with a grievance. I'm very curious. Why do you think you've got me? Ning Yu was puzzled. Hehe, it's not that I think I've got you. I just know what the sapling outside is. Venerable Thousand Wolves first smiled and then whispered in a language that only Ning Yu and himself could hear, that's the world tree. Since you know it's the world tree, why do you still want to fight me? Ning Yu had already guessed that Venerable Thousand Wolves would say that. It's very simple. Before the evil lord died, he sent back a message saying that the world tree has reappeared. He told us to set up the array here and wait. Venerable Thousand Wolves' lips curled up and said, according to the evil lord's intention, he wanted to send such an important message to the Eastern Expedition Army's headquarters. Now, it seems like there's no need for that. Ning Yu's expression was very cold, and he even felt some lingering fear. Fortunately, Venerable Thousand Wolves was rather stupid. If he really did as the evil lord said and sent the message to the Eastern Expedition Army's headquarters, the consequences would be unimaginable. Do you know how pigs die? Thinking about it, Ning Yu locked his aura onto Venerable Thousand Wolves. How did they die? Venerable Thousand Wolves frowned. Stupid pig. As he spoke, Ning Yu turned into an afterimage and his figure instantly shot out. Child's play. Facing Ning Yu, Venerable Thousand Wolves clearly did not put him in his eyes. In his view, how capable could a first-grade mortal sovereign be? The reason why the evil lord and the others were killed was because of the world tree outside the array. Now that he was separated by the array, the world tree couldn't do anything to him. I'll show you the peerless genius of the Pill Pavilion. Twisting his neck, Venerable Thousand Wolves' cold voice slowly resounded. Boom. However, before Venerable Thousand Wolves could finish his words, he felt his body lighten and was sent flying. Only when his body hit the edge of the array did Venerable Thousand Wolves stop. Fart. Venerable Thousand Wolves spat out a mouthful of blood as his face turned extremely dark. Brat, I'm going to skin you alive. Venerable Thousand Wolves clenched his fists and roared. There are plenty of people who want to skin me alive. Who the hell do you think you are? In the beginning, Ningyu thought that Venerable Thousand Wolves was powerful. Who could have thought that he was just a wax figure that looked impressive but was useless? Just a single move without even using 50% of his strength had heavily injured Venerable Thousand Wolves. One could imagine that if Ningyu used his full strength, Venerable Thousand Wolves would definitely die. Boom. Among the pill puppets in the resource reserve station, Venerable Thousand Wolves was considered extremely powerful. Even some of the 5th grade mortal sovereigns weren't as powerful as him. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to describe Venerable Thousand Wolves as an overlord. However, this overlord was easily defeated by Ningyu in a single move. For a moment, the pill puppets around the array revealed looks of disbelief. As for Venerable Thousand Wolves, he felt that he had lost all his face and let out a hysterical roar. I'll kill you. Venerable Thousand Wolves had never been so humiliated before. He had to get back at Lin Fan no matter what. With a loud roar, the Thousand Wolves Venerable moved swiftly and appeared in front of Ningyu in an instant. A punch, with an extremely violent fluctuation of yuan qi, fiercely smashed toward Ningyu's head. Venerable Thousand Wolves' plan was simple. I'll kill you with my strongest punch. Control over the world tree? To hell with it. I'll say it again. There are plenty of people who want me dead. Who the hell do you think you are? Ningyu shrugged. Then, he bent his legs slightly and gathered all the energy in his sea of consciousness around his fist. Then, he threw a backhand punch at Venerable Thousand Wolf's fist. Crack. The two fists collided. An extremely crisp voice rang out. Venerable Thousand Wolf's body was sent flying again. Fut fut fut. Compared to the previous time, Venerable Thousand Wolves was in a much more dangerous situation this time. His aura had dropped to the freezing point and his face had turned extremely pale. Venerable Thousand Wolves, I initially wanted to spare your life. However, you said that the array can only be unlocked after one person dies. Since that's the case, I can only apologize to you. Chapter 1089. Crack. What are you doing? After being defeated by Ningyu twice in a row, Venerable Thousand Wolves finally understood. He was no match for Ningyu. Although it was a sad thing, he had to admit it. You should know very well what I'm doing. Ningyu said as he walked. Don't come over, I know how to crack this formation. You don't have to die to crack it. Venerable Thousand Wolves howled like a madman. Energy. As long as you have a large amount of energy, I can find a way to crack this formation. My energy is mine. Why should I let you use it to crack the formation? Ningyu stopped in his tracks and asked doubtfully, won't the formation be broken if I kill you? How simple. No, it's not like that. This formation is very special. It's not something that can be automatically broken just by killing me. Venerable Thousand Wolves' worries eased a little when he saw that Ningyu had stopped. He hurriedly said, only I can completely crack this formation. Sounds better than a song, Ningyu shrugged. I have a few questions for you. As long as you answer them honestly, I'll provide you with energy. Ningyu paused for a moment before he continued. First question, how many pill puppets are stronger than you in this resource depot? Venerable Thousand Wolves shook his head. None. I'm the strongest here. All the pill puppets have to be controlled by me. If you're not willing to tell the truth, I'll have to send you to hell. Ningyu frowned. I can still crack this formation after I kill you. Buzz. Following that, Ningyu unleashed his aura and suppressed the Thousand Wolf supremacy all at once. Fut. Venerable Thousand Wolves was already severely injured. Now that he was being suppressed by Ningyu's aura, he spat out a mouthful of blood and trembled all over. I don't want to repeat myself. Ningyu withdrew his aura and said indifferently, aside from me, there are also two late-stage 6th grade human supremacy Dan puppets. After tasting the bitterness, Venerable Thousand Wolf became obedient and said, the two late-phase 6th grade Sovereign Realm Dan puppets are currently in seclusion, devouring energy. If nothing goes wrong, they should come out in about half an hour. At that time, their cultivation should be able to reach the pinnacle 6th grade sovereign realm. The second question, where are the resources in this resource reserve station? Ningyu frowned slightly and continued to ask. I can't tell you that. You have to promise not to kill me. Venerable Thousand Wolf knew that this was his bottom line. Once he revealed it, the consequences would be unimaginable. You won't tell me? Ningyu raised his brows and sighed. Sigh, since you don't know how to appreciate my kindness, there is no need for me to keep you here. Ningyu's body gradually became illusory as soon as he finished the word. Not good. Seeing that Ningyu had disappeared, Venerable Thousand Wolf instantly sensed that something was amiss and immediately yelled, You can't, puff. However, as soon as Venerable Thousand Wolf's words were heard, they were interrupted by the sound of blood being spat out. Venerable Thousand Wolf crashed onto the platform with a metallic taste coming from his throat, causing him to spurt a few mouthfuls of blood. There's only one chance, and it has always been given to those who are prepared. Ningyu moved his feet and came before Venerable Thousand Wolf. The reason why I'm killing you is because of them. As he spoke, Ningyu raised his right hand and pointed towards the distance. Venerable Gong, Venerable Fang. The Thousand Wolves' Venerable's face was filled with despair when he saw the two figures speeding over from afar. That's because the two silhouettes were yelling as they flew. Go. All of you, go. Capture that black dog and that 5th grade human Supreme Zun, dead or alive. With Venerable Gong and Venerable Fang's actions, how could Venerable Thousand Wolf survive? After all, in Ningyu's view, there was no point in keeping a disobedient pill puppet alive. Therefore, Ningyu raised his right foot and stomped on Venerable Thousand Wolf's chest. Ah, I hate this. Venerable Thousand Wolf still couldn't figure it out. How could Ningyu, who was only a 1st grade sovereign, possess such heaven-defying strength? Crack. As it turned out, Venerable Thousand Wolf wasn't lying. As soon as he died, the high platform collapsed with a loud bang, and the surrounding formation also disappeared. Rustle. Shortly after, Venerable Gong and Venerable Fang also descended upon this region. If I've guessed correctly, the two of you should be the strongest pill puppets in this resource reserve station. Ningyu locked his aura on Venerable Gong and Venerable Fang as he spoke. Brat, you're arrogant. Venerable Gong coldly said, the two of us are pinnacle 6th grade sovereigns, while you're only a 1st grade sovereign. I don't know where your confidence comes from. Could it be that your confidence comes from killing Venerable Thousand Wolf? Venerable Fang, who was beside Venerable Gong, asked in doubt. Neither. Ningyu shook his head and said, my confidence comes from my powerful strength. Powerful strength. Venerable Gong and Venerable Fang were stunned for a moment before they burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. After laughing, Venerable Gong coldly said, Brat, you're the most arrogant human we've ever seen. What a load of nonsense. Ningyu couldn't be bothered to waste time with Venerable Gong and Venerable Fang. With a thought, he controlled the sapling to fly before him. Since we dared to come over, we're not afraid of this thing. Venerable Gong coldly said, bring it over. Boom. 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 As Venerable Gong's words landed, smoke billowed from afar. Hundreds and thousands of pill puppets appeared. Above their heads, there was a colossal being that was emitting a terrifying aura. Unconscious pill puppet. Ningyu's gaze first landed on the numerous half-step supreme being elixir puppets, before finally shifting to the massive being above their heads. Calling it a colossal being was actually a little exaggerated. Pill puppets. Unconscious pill puppets. The true identity of the colossal being should be the unconscious pill puppet, with a cultivation of pinnacle 7th grade sovereign realm. Although the sapling can restrain the pill puppets, it shouldn't be of much use to this unconscious pill puppet, right? Venerable Gong pointed at the unconscious pill puppet in the sky and said, without the help of the sapling, we can exhaust you to death even if we take turns to fight you. Aren't those two old fellows just at pinnacle 6th grade sovereign realm? At this moment, the Dark Emperor couldn't bear to watch any longer as he said in disdain, the number of pinnacle 6th grade sovereigns that died in our hands is uncountable. Right, you should know about the evil lord, right? He died in the hands of Ningyu. Crack. Hearing till here, Venerable Fang clenched his fists as the ferocity on his face grew even more evident. Perhaps Venerable Gong might not have any reaction to the death of the evil lord, but Venerable Fang had a huge reaction. That's because the relationship between the evil lord and Venerable Fang wasn't ordinary. It could be said that without the evil lord, Venerable Fang would have long been killed. Today, all of you must die. Chapter 1090. Charge. I've heard those words dozens of times, but I'm still alive and well. Facing Venerable Fang's threatening words, Ningyu lightly smiled and did not place it in his heart. Venerable Fang was only a pinnacle 6th grade sovereign. His strength wasn't sufficient to kill him. Furthermore, even with Venerable Gong, who was a pinnacle 6th grade sovereign, they could only gain the upper hand against him. At the very least, it would be impossible for them to kill him in a short period of time. Arrogant. Venerable Fang's gaze turned cold as he soared from the ground and flew out. Sizzle. Sizzle. At this moment, Venerable Fang only had a single thought in his heart, that was to kill Ningyu and turn Ningyu into ashes. Venerable Fang, don't be rash. Seeing Venerable Fang charging out, Venerable Gong immediately said, he has that thing, you're not his opponent. Venerable Gong was so furious that his lungs were about to explode. Before they came, they had already discussed that they would rely on the unconscious pellet puppets to deal with Ningyu. But now, Venerable Fang had actually acted on his own. Go, all of you, go. No matter what, we have to hold back the sapling and not let it have its hands free. Venerable Gong was truly a pinnacle 6th grade sovereign. He had quickly thought of a countermeasure. To reduce the danger to the minimum, he had decided to sacrifice the pellet puppets, a large amount of them. Compared to Venerable Fang's life, those 1st and 2nd grade pellet puppets were no different from cannon fodder. Sizzle. If it wasn't for Ningyu's suppression, the sapling would have already started a massacre here. It was the world tree, so when it encountered such a vast amount of energy, it wouldn't be able to live without devouring it. Now that so many pellet puppets were coming to die, the sapling was naturally excited. Whoosh. 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 Under the frenzied state, the sapling instantly unleashed a terrifying devouring power. Rustle. The 1st and 2nd grade pellet puppets that were charging towards it were practically devoured in an instant. What? The sudden change caused Venerable Gong's face to drastically change as he immediately said, retreat, retreat. Let the unconscious pellet puppets make their move. Boom. 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 As the words left Venerable Gong's mouth, the unconscious pill puppet in the distance moved its feet and charged towards the sapling. Dark Emperor, what should we do? Ningyu was battling with Venerable Fang while the sapling was dealing with the Tier 1 and Tier 2 pill puppets. At this moment, the talisman martial supremacist's eyes were a little flustered as he said to the Dark Emperor, fight or run. Run. Do you think we can escape? The Dark Emperor's expression turned cold as he said, you take Yunmu, and I will take the Sword of Evil. We will hide behind the sapling for now and wait for Ningyu to come. Wait for Ningyu? Ningyu, he. The talisman supremacy opened her mouth slightly and was about to say something when she turned her head and saw a shocking scene. Rumble. In mid-air, 2 figures were fighting. The 2 sides of the battle were naturally Ningyu and Venerable Fang. Why is this kid so powerful? After forcing Ningyu back with a single move, a cold expression appeared on Venerable Fang's face. He thought to himself, if I use my full strength, I can only resist him. There's no way I can kill him. Me. Brat, you're already an arrow at the end of its flight. Let me give you a piece of advice, you'd better surrender. Otherwise, I will let you die a horrible death. Although he was shocked in his heart, Venerable Fang coldly snorted. You're only a 1st grade human sovereign, while I'm a 6th grade human sovereign. I can kill you with a wave of my hand. Hearing Venerable Fang's words, Ningyu was a little speechless. To think that you've reached the pinnacle of the 6th grade human sovereign realm. Who said that a 1st grade human sovereign can't confront a 6th grade human sovereign? Ningyu cast his lips aside and continued, according to what you've said, the deaths of the evil lord, middle war sovereign, and eastern war sovereign should have nothing to do with me. You. Venerable Fang's face was extremely dark. Instead of mocking, he was ridiculed. Venerable Fang couldn't swallow this insult. What a sharp tongue. Since that's the case, I'll let you know how powerful I am. A frightening light shot out of Venerable Fang's eyes. The primal chi in his sea of consciousness churned and wrapped around his wrist. Sizzle. Sizzle. The energy fluctuation on his fist caused sizzling sounds to explode in space. This day next year will be the anniversary of your death. A cold voice resounded as Venerable Fang's silhouette suddenly disappeared. Rustle. In that instant before Venerable Fang disappeared, Ningyu had already realized the severity of the situation. The situation isn't looking good. I have to kill Venerable Fang. Turning his head to look at the Dark Emperor and the rest, who were bitterly holding on, Ningyu immediately communicated with the law of space. The world tree could restrain Danzhong, causing him to fear it. There was another thing that could also cause Danzhong to be worried. The law of space. What Danzhong feared the most was the world tree. What he feared next was the law of space. Attack. Initially, the law of space was with the sword of evil. But now, the sword of evil had suffered heavy injuries with a mark of Danzhong on his forehead, making him look like a dead dog. If he couldn't deal with the sword of evil, even if Ningyu and the rest woke him up, it would be useless. On the contrary, he would become food for Danzhong. Swoosh. The law of space had a great sense of belonging to Ningyu. After leaving the sword of evil's body, the law of space instantly arrived in front of Ningyu and floated above his head. Not good. Seeing the law of space above Ningyu's head, Venerable Fang's expression changed drastically and he immediately retreated. Venerable Fang knew his own limitations. Originally, he could only be evenly matched with Ningyu and had no way of killing Ningyu. Now that Ningyu had the law of space, what could he use to fight Ningyu? If he continued to fight, only death awaited him. Venerable Gong, hurry up and let the unconscious Danzhong come over. Let's kill Ningyu first. Venerable Fang shouted at Venerable Gong as he fled. At this moment, Venerable Gong was sitting on the shoulder of the unconscious Danzhong with a vicious expression. Hearing Venerable Fang's roar, he injected his perception into the unconscious Danzhong's mind and controlled it to give up on the sapling and attack Ningyu instead. Don't bother about me first. Cooperate with the sapling and devour all the Danzhong in the surroundings. At this critical moment, not only did Ningyu not let the Dark Emperor and the rest return to help, he even told the Dark Emperor to cooperate with the sapling and devour the Danzhong in the surrounding. All right. The Dark Emperor was the purple gold sky devouring dog, the emperor of the sky devouring dog clan. Roar. Now that things had come to this, he no longer hid. Instead, he roared at the sky and his body immediately grew several times larger. Behind him, a pair of purple wings flapped continuously. Purple gold sky devouring dog. The sudden change caused Venerable Talisman Wu's mouth to gape slightly, feeling that it was unrealistic. She had always felt that the Dark Emperor was very special, but she did not know that the Dark Emperor was the purple gold sky devouring dog. I'm going to devour all of you. After revealing his true form, the Dark Emperor's combat strength instantly doubled. Chapter 1091. Crack, crack, crack. At this moment, the Dark Emperor was no longer the same as before. His cultivation had reached second-grade sovereign, and after reverting to his original form, there was a clear increase in his strength. It wasn't difficult for him to deal with the pill puppets that were only in the first and second-grade sovereign realms. Facing the powerful attacks of the Dark Emperor, several pill puppets couldn't even resist for a second before they were devoured. Hiss. The violent actions of the Dark Emperor caused Venerable Talisman Marshal to suck in a cold breath. Although Venerable Talisman Marshal was stronger than the Dark Emperor in terms of strength, he didn't dare to devour those pill puppets for no reason. Perhaps only an ancient clan like the Dark Emperor could devour the pill puppets without a change in expression. Arg. The combined might of the Dark Emperor and the sapling was extremely powerful. Practically in an instant, more than half of the pill puppets in the cavern had died. Boom. On the other hand, Ningyu's situation wasn't looking good. Venerable Fang did not hesitate to ignite his vitality to increase his strength, causing Ningyu to be unable to kill him in a short period of time. On the contrary, Ningyu was struck in the chest by Venerable Fang in a moment of carelessness and his body flew out. Venerable Fang, come over quickly. Seeing that Venerable Fang had succeeded, Venerable Gong, who was on the shoulder of the pill puppet, immediately yelled out. Let's go. Venerable Fang knew that he wasn't Ningyu's opponent, so he tore space apart and charged towards the pill puppet. How could Ningyu let Venerable Fang escape? Ningyu knew that he couldn't let the tiger return to the mountain. Therefore, Ningyu channeled the vitality in his spiritual consciousness into the red demon sword. At the same time, he also channeled his 7th grade mid-stage soul power into the red demon sword. Whoosh! Not only was the sword light massive, it was also extremely powerful. A crack was torn open in space and the sword light entered the crack, appearing beside Venerable Fang. No! PFFFT. Venerable Fang's perception was still very strong. As soon as the sword light appeared, he realized that something was wrong. He used all his strength so that he could reach Venerable Gong's side as soon as possible. Dreams were plentiful, but reality was harsh. Even though Venerable One Fang reacted in time, he was still half a beat too late. The sword light tore through the void and slashed at his chest. Venerable Fang's face darkened as he spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. The defeat this time could not be described as an unexpected turn of events. Because even if he fought against Ningyu fair and square, there was no way he could win. At best, it could only be regarded as arrogant and conceited. What the F***ck are you waiting for? Hurry up and come over. Seeing that Venerable Fang was slightly stunned, Venerable Gong immediately shouted. Yes, let's hurry over. The more confused they were, the less organized they would be. Venerable Fang was only focused on spacing out. He did not even think of escaping. Puff. However, it was already too late for Venerable Fang to leave after such a long time. Lowering his head to look at the crimson flying sword in his heart, Venerable Fang extended his right hand and pointed at Ningyu. How are you so powerful? How did you do it? Halfway through his words, Venerable Fang's head tilted and he fell to the ground. At this moment, the Pinnacle's 6th grade human sovereign realm Dan puppet, Venerable Fang, had died in battle. Boom! Venerable Fang's sudden death made Venerable Gong's head feel as if it had exploded. A Pinnacle's 6th grade human sovereign, Venerable Fang, whose strength was on par with him, was killed just like that. Venerable Gong did not dare to believe this fact. In the beginning, he thought that the few cultivators that had entered the pill cave wouldn't be that strong due to their low cultivation. Even if they had saplings, he wouldn't be afraid. After all, he had a powerful unconscious Dan puppet. But from the looks of it, it wasn't that simple. Brat, I admit that you're strong. But if you want to fight with this unconscious Dan puppet, you're clearly lacking. Taking a deep breath, Venerable Gong tried his best to calm himself down. In fact, Venerable Gong's eyeballs turned and he started to negotiate with Ningyu. Let's make a deal. I won't let the unconscious Dan puppet kill you, and you, get your friend to stop. Venerable Gong was very clear about the destructive power of the purple gold sky devouring hound and the saplings. If he allowed them to continue like this, it wouldn't be long before all the Dan puppets in the pill cave would be devoured, except for him. This was the resource storage station of the Eastern Expedition Army. Once all the Dan puppets were devoured, this pill cave would completely explode. At that time, no one would be able to survive. If he didn't want the pill cave to explode, he had to at least leave one Dan puppet behind. Of course, Venerable Gong would not tell Ningyu about this for the time being. He was only negotiating with Ningyu first. My friend, I can't give you orders. Ningyu said indifferently, if you really want to make a deal with me, then first tell me where the resources in this pill cave are stored. Get them to stop, I'll bring you there right now. Venerable Gong said solemnly. Dark Emperor, saplings, stop first. After a moment of silence, Ningyu could only choose to compromise for the time being. Ningyu did not have absolute confidence in dealing with the unconscious Dan puppet. Since Venerable Gong wanted to stop temporarily, he was happy to be at ease. He could use this time to digest the Dan puppets he devoured and adjust his mental state to its peak. Why stop? I can feel that if I devour all these guys, I can even advance to the 3rd grade human supreme realm, or even the 4th grade human supreme realm. The Dark Emperor's face was filled with depression as he grumbled. Although he was grumbling, the Dark Emperor knew that he had to stop. Unintentionally recognizing a pill puppet was no joke. Since the Dark Emperor had stopped, the saplings naturally stopped devouring as well. Follow me. Seeing that the Dark Emperor and the rest had stopped devouring the Dan puppets, Venerable Gong brought the unconscious Dan puppet and walked towards the depths of the pill cave. Behind Venerable Gong, Ningyu and the rest looked at each other before following unhurriedly. Ningyu, what should we do later? The Dark Emperor was not a fool. He knew that Ningyu definitely had his reasons for choosing to believe in Venerable Gong. We'll act according to the circumstances. Venerable Gong wants to kill me, I want to kill Venerable Gong too. It's that simple. Ningyu left behind this indifferent sentence and no longer spoke. The Dark Emperor's face was filled with black lines. Everyone understood the current situation. Venerable Gong was afraid that the unconscious Dan puppet was not Ningyu's match. After all, Ningyu had easily killed Venerable Fang. Ningyu was afraid that the unconscious Dan puppet was too strong for him to deal with. Both sides were suspicious and gradually came to a consensus. No one would make the first move. According to Ningyu's guess, Venerable Gong would probably attack once they reached the place where the resources were stored. At that time, a huge battle would be unavoidable. Therefore, on the way, Ningyu tried his best to recover and adjust his mental state to its peak. Moreover, Ningyu had arranged everything. Chapter 1092. 3 Saint Fruit Whoosh. There was a saying that went like this. Plans couldn't keep up with changes. Ningyu had just arranged everything when the situation suddenly changed. The surrounding space split apart and 4 figures appeared in this region. Pinnacle 6th grade human sovereign? Looking at the 4 figures, Ningyu's heart skipped a beat. Because those 4 figures weren't Dan Kai, but humans. 4 humans controlled by Venerable Gong and the rest. Venerable Gong, do you think that you can kill me with those 4 pieces of trash? Although he was worried, Ningyu maintained an indifferent expression. If I can kill Venerable Fang, then I can kill them as well. Haha, I know that you can kill them. I summoned them not to kill you, but to hold you back. Venerable Gong said with a smile. The resource storage point is up ahead. I'll let the unconscious Dan Kai devour some energy and let it advance to 8th grade human sovereign in a short period of time. You could kill Venerable Fang because he was only a pinnacle 6th grade human sovereign. If I raise the cultivation of the unconscious Dan Kai to 8th grade human sovereign, what else can you use to fight me? Ha ha ha. After laughing wildly, Venerable Gong raised his right hand and suddenly patted the shoulder of the unconscious Dan Kai. Boom. The unconscious Dan Kai received the message and immediately sprinted into the distance. Stop him. Since his plan had already been disrupted, Ningyu couldn't be bothered anymore. He left and immediately tore through the void, charging towards Venerable Gong. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Evidently, the 4 pinnacle 6th grade human sovereigns wouldn't allow Ningyu to get past them. They stood side by side, firmly blocking Ningyu's path. Furthermore, the 4 pinnacle 6th grade human sovereigns were extremely powerful, only slightly weaker than Venerable Fang. With the 4 of them blocking him, Ningyu wasn't 100% confident that he could get past them. Ningyu, leave the 4 of them to us. You must kill Venerable Gong. As long as you kill him, the unconscious Dan puppet will lose control. At that time, everyone will be safe. At the critical moment, Talisman Martial Supremacy shouted. All right. Ningyu nodded without much hesitation when he heard Venerable Talisman Martial Venerable's words. Go. The Talisman Supremacy, the Dark Emperor, and the sapling charged out in unison and engaged in a great battle with the 4 peak grade 6 human supremacies. As for the Sword of Evil and Yun Mu, since their consciousness was blurry and they did not have much fighting power, Ningyu temporarily left them here and went to chase after Honorable Gong alone. The Sword of Evil at his peak would naturally be of help. In his current state, the Sword of Evil couldn't even protect himself, let alone help. Whoosh. In order to catch up to Honorable Gong earlier, Ningyu drew out the energy in his consciousness and wrapped it around his ankle. As the energy burned, Ningyu's speed increased. "You want to catch me?" Venerable Gong turned around and looked at Ningyu. The corner of his lips rose as he took out a piece of royal grade origin crystal and threw it into the mouth of the unconscious Dan puppet. "I'm going to eat it." Venerable Gong's actions caused the corner of Ningyu's lips to twitch a few times. "You only fed a piece of royal grade origin crystal to an unconscious Dan puppet at the peak grade 7 human supremacy realm? Ha. Clearly, Venerable Gong had guessed what Ningyu was thinking. He took out a storage pouch and smiled at Ningyu before throwing the storage pouch into the mouth of the unconscious Dan puppet. F***ck this crystal. This time, Ningyu's face was filled with shock. Royal grade origin crystals. The storage pouch was filled with royal grade origin crystals. The amount was at least in the tens of thousands. Tens of thousands of royal grade origin crystals were thrown into the mouth of the unconscious Dan puppet by Venerable Gong without so much as a frown. What a waste. Moreover, Venerable Gong took out so many royal grade origin crystals not to increase the strength of the Dan puppet, but to increase its speed. Whoosh. After swallowing and refining tens of thousands of royal grade origin crystals, the speed of the unconscious Dan puppet had a qualitative increase. Originally, Ningyu could still follow closely behind him. But with Venerable Gong's actions, forget about following behind, he could not even see his back. Since Venerable Gong is willing to take out so many royal grade origin crystals, it means that the resources in this pill cavern are huge. Ningyu could guess that the resources in this pill cavern would probably reach a terrifying level. Describing it as rich as a country would be very appropriate. Speed up. No matter how many resources there were, if he could not catch up to Venerable Gong and delay the unconscious Dan puppet, then everything would be futile. In order to catch up to the Dan puppet, Ningyu had no choice but to ignite his blood essence to increase his speed. Kai. After igniting his blood essence, Ningyu's speed increased by several folds. From the start, Venerable Gong was far away, but he gradually pulled back. What kind of freak is this? Venerable Gong thought that after using tens of thousands of royal grade origin crystals, he would be able to shake off Ningyu for sure. Who would have thought that Ningyu would catch up again? I don't believe it. With a cold expression, Venerable Gong took out another storage pouch and threw it into the Dan puppet's mouth. Boom. As the storage pouch entered its stomach, the unconscious Dan puppet instantly erupted, and its speed increased by several folds. Haha. In another 3 minutes, I will reach the place where the resources are stored. At that time, I will feed the Dan puppet some heaven-defying elixirs, allowing its cultivation to reach the 8th grade human supreme realm in a short period of time. I don't believe that I can't kill you then. Turning back to look at Ningyu, who was gradually getting further away, Venerable Gong said with a faint smile. In the first 2 minutes, Venerable Gong was still a little worried, but in the 3rd minute, he was completely relieved. After such a long time, Ningyu had not caught up. In the last minute, Ningyu would definitely not be able to catch up. Hua. After 3 minutes, Ningyu still had not caught up. In order to confirm that Ningyu had not left, Venerable Gong extended his perception and carefully probed the surroundings. A moment later, Venerable Gong took a deep breath and slowly retracted his perception. After a minute of probing, Venerable Gong finally confirmed that Ningyu had not caught up. Luckily, the resources of the entire pill cavern were stored in the natural cave. Otherwise, wouldn't they have snatched the resources stored at the entrance of the pill cavern? Venerable Gong felt a little scared. It was just as he had thought. If the resources were all stored at the entrance of the pill cavern, then Ningyu would definitely store all the resources and leave the pill cavern. Open. Venerable Gong formed seals in the air, before suddenly pointing his finger. Bang! A cold light shot out from Venerable Gong's right hand and struck the stone door of the cave in the distance. Creak! The stone door seemed to be pushed by someone as it slowly opened. Not bad, not bad. The Trisaint fruit is about to ripen. As long as I devour and refine it, my cultivation can even rise to the 7th grade human supreme realm. Chapter 1093. Get rid of one. You come here too. Coming to the entrance of the cave in a few steps, Lord Gong paused for a moment, turned around and waved his hand at the unintentional sense pellet puppet, saying, "Guard the stone door, without my permission, no one is to let them take half a step into the cave." After thinking about it, Master Gong still felt uneasy. He stood at the entrance of the cave and slammed his hands against the stone walls on both sides. Rumble. The stone wall let out a rumbling sound and quickly returned to its original state. Not bad. Venerable Gong nodded his head slightly and walked into the depths of the cave without looking back. Buzz. Not long after Venerable Gong entered the cave, Ningyu appeared from the void at the side. It was not that Ningyu did not catch up to Venerable Gong, but he did not let Venerable Gong discover him. Along the way, Ningyu constantly avoided the probing of Venerable Gong's perception. There were even a few times when he was almost discovered by Venerable Gong. He might as well drag it out for 3 minutes, and finally followed Venerable Gong to this area. 3 sacred fruits. Ningyu squinted his eyes and an excited look appeared on his face. The Trinity fruit was good stuff. According to Ningyu's guess, as long as he could consume the Tri-Saint fruit, he would be able to easily advance to 2nd grade Supreme Martial Artist. With Ningyu's current strength, he could kill a pinnacle 6th grade sovereign, but he still couldn't confront a 7th grade sovereign. However, if he were to advance to 2nd grade Human Supreme Martial Artist, he would even be able to fight against an early 7th grade Human Supreme Martial Artist. In fact, if he used his trump card unexpectedly, he could even kill him. If you want to obtain the 3 sacred fruits, you must pass through the cave. Ningyu was secretly thinking of countermeasures. The unintentional consciousness pill puppet was only relatively strong, but its perception was not too powerful. Ningyu was confident that he could deceive everyone. However, Ningyu did not have absolute confidence in breaking the formation at the entrance of the cave. Before Venerable Gong left, he patted the stone wall with both hands. His purpose was to activate the formation at the entrance of the cave. Obviously, Master Gong had done it. I wonder if this cave has another entrance or exit. After pondering for a moment, Ningyu released all of his perception, hoping to find another exit. The Dark Emperor and the Talisman Martial Supremacy were in a dangerous situation. Outside the Pill Cave, Xielan was also in a bad situation. Ningyu knew what his mission was. He had to kill Venerable Gong, then control the pill puppet of unintentional sense to leave the pill cavern and help Xielan. At that time, not only would he be able to help Xielan solve the problem, but he would also be able to get rid of Xielan. Damn it. Sometimes, the difference between ideals and reality was very small, but sometimes, it was a difference of hundreds of years. After cursing in his heart, Ningyu began to carefully observe the formation, striving to break it in a short time. Drip, drip. Time always slipped away unknowingly. As Ningyu was trying hard to think of a way to break through the formation, Venerable Gong stared at the 3 saint fruit on the branch in the cave. He frowned slightly, feeling rather worried. The reason why Venerable Gong was worried wasn't because the 3 saint fruit had yet to ripen. On the contrary, the 3 saint fruit had already ripened. With his physique, there was a huge risk in consuming a fully ripened 3 saint fruit. If he was careless, he would die without a burial. The bold will be stuffed to death, and the cowardly will be starved to death. After a brief pondering, Venerable Gong clenched his teeth. No matter what, I'm still a pinnacle 6th grade sovereign. I don't believe that a single 3 saint fruit can do anything to me. Although he said that, Venerable Gong still did not dare to devour the 3 saint fruit. That's because he was clear that there were only 2 outcomes for him to devour the 3 saint fruit. Firstly, he would successfully reach the 7th grade sovereign realm. Secondly, his body would explode from the powerful energy of the 3 saint fruit, and he would disappear from this world. The ratio was as high as 1:9. That also meant that Venerable Gong only had a 10% chance of success, and a 90% chance of failure. Rumble. Just when Venerable Gong was hesitating if he should devour the 3 saint fruit, an earth-shattering rumble resounded from the entrance of the cave. Shit. Hearing that voice, Venerable Gong's face drastically changed as he grabbed onto the 3 saint fruit and bolted out. Venerable Gong's speed was very fast, fast to the extreme. In the blink of an eye, Venerable Gong had already arrived at the entrance of the cave. Seeing a familiar silhouette standing at the entrance of the cave, Venerable Gong clenched his fists to the point that crackling sounds could be heard as veins bulged on his forehead. Unconscious pellet puppet, quickly. Venerable Gong was only briefly stunned as he quickly recovered from his shock. He formed seals with both of his hands and immediately ordered the unconscious pellet puppet. Although he had no idea how Ningyu broke through the array at the entrance of the cave, Venerable Gong was clear that before he reached the 7th grade sovereign realm by devouring the 3 saint fruits, the only thing that could stop Ningyu was the unintentional sense pill puppet. As long as the unconscious pellet puppet obstructs Ningyu for a few minutes, I will immediately devour the 3 saint fruit. Venerable Gong inwardly made up his mind to devour the 3 saint fruit. Since it had come to this, he had no other choice. If he wanted to smoothly get rid of Ningyu, the only way was to devour the 3 saint fruit. If I had known this earlier, I would have given the unconscious pellet puppet all the energy beforehand. Venerable Gong was filled with regret. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world, and there was nothing he could do about it. Solitaire. Since he had already avoided the unconscious pellet puppet, how could Ningyu allow Venerable Gong to control it again? Therefore, Ningyu took out the red demon sword and slashed out in the air. That's all you've got? Sensing the ripples emitted from the sword ripples, Venerable Gong was a little dumbfounded. Logically speaking, Ningyu's attack power shouldn't be this weak. Isn't it a little bad to be distracted now? Ningyu grabbed onto the fleeting opportunity. He instantly tore through the void and arrived before Venerable Gong. All the energy in his sea of consciousness gathered in his right fist. Under Venerable Gong's shocked gaze, he punched at his heart. Bang! The terrifying force from his heart caused Venerable Gong's expression to become unusually hideous. Venerable Gong's hideous expression was very special. From the initial fear, to the final ecstasy. Bang! In the end, Venerable Gong directly exploded. Fortunately, when Venerable Gong exploded, Ningyu used a secret technique to hide below. Otherwise, this explosion alone would have been enough to take his little life. Creak! After Venerable Gong was killed, the unconscious pellet puppet in the distance also stopped. Whoosh! After confirming that the unconscious pellet puppet was completely unable to move, the worry in Ningyu's heart was slightly alleviated. That's right, the tri-sacred fruit. After a short silence, Ningyu shouted loudly. He hurriedly extended his perception and began to search left and right. The tri-sacred fruit was good stuff. It would be too much of a pity to lose it. Over there. Ningyu did not search for long before he found the tri-sacred fruit at the corner of the cave. Rustle. Moving his feet, Ningyu quickly came before the tri-sacred fruit and picked it up. Rumble. Chapter 1094. What's going on? Oh no. Ningyu's expression changed drastically when he felt the cave shaking. He immediately extended his senses to see how many Dharma treasures and elixirs there were in the cave. I can't believe it. Sometimes, the more one knew, the more painful it was. It was a tragedy to be able to see so many Dharma treasures and elixirs but not be able to get them. 10 seconds until the cave collapses. A terrifying light burst forth from Ningyu's eyes, and he immediately summoned his storage ring, racing against time as he busied himself in the cave. Drip. Drip. 10 seconds passed in the blink of an eye. When the 11th second arrived, Ningyu's figure flashed and he dashed out of the cave at a shocking speed. You go into the storage ring too. Passing by the unconscious pill puppet, Ningyu controlled the storage ring to emit a beam of light and stored the unconscious pill puppet into the storage ring. Rumble. As soon as Ningyu left the cave collapsed. The shockwave caused by the collapse of the cave made Ningyu's expression turn ugly. He immediately retreated. A person's strength was insignificant. In the face of the cave collapsing, Ningyu had no other choice. Moreover, the Dark Emperor and the others were fighting with 4 peak 6th grade human sovereigns. Ningyu had no time to search for Dharma treasures and elixirs here. What he needed to do was to return to the Dark Emperor as soon as possible. Why are they all royal grade origin crystals? As he flew, Ningyu extended his soul power into the storage ring. After 10 seconds of searching, not even a tenth of the storage ring was filled. Even so, there were still a lot of origin crystals in the storage ring. Royal grade origin crystals. To be exact, there were about 1 million of them. 1 million royal grade origin crystals. Just thinking about it made one's blood boil. However, Ningyu was not too satisfied. To him, Dharma treasures and elixirs were more precious than royal grade origin crystals. Forget it, let's raise the cultivation of the unconscious Dan puppet to the early phase 8th grade sovereign realm. With a slight frown, Ningyu directly took out 100,000 royal grade origin crystals from his storage ring and threw them all into the unconscious pill puppet's mouth. Catcher. As the royal grade essence crystal entered its stomach, the unintentional consciousness pill puppet seemed to be devouring it. The unintentional consciousness pill puppet took 2 minutes to completely refine 100,000 royal grade essence crystals. Whoosh! After refining 100,000 royal grade essence crystals, the aura of the pill puppet suddenly soared into the sky. Early 8th grade human supreme martial artists. The unintentional sense Dantian's cultivation had reached the early 8th grade human supreme martial artist realm. 100,000 royal grade essence crystals should be able to sustain the unconscious pill puppet for half an hour. Ningyu muttered as his gaze shifted to the unconscious Dan Xiao. Honestly speaking, 100,000 royal grade essence crystals to let the unconscious pill puppet persist for half an hour, Ningyu was really a little reluctant. He had obtained a total of 1 million royal grade essence crystals from the cave, and after careful calculation, it could only provide for 5 hours. Poochie. Poochie. While Ningyu was advancing at full speed, somewhere on the battlefield, 2 figures were struck in the chest by the cultivators they were fighting with. Their bodies flew out and they spat out a mouthful of blood. Dark Emperor. Talisman Supremacy. These 2 figures were none other than the Dark Emperor and Talisman Supremacy. At this moment, the 2 of them were in a sorry state. Their clothes were tattered and their auras were extremely weak. Comparatively, the sapling on the other side was in a much better state. The sapling was fighting 1 against 2, but it was only at a slight disadvantage. At the very least, it wouldn't be defeated in a short period of time. Damn it, I wonder when that brat Ningyu will return. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, the Dark Emperor said coldly, with Ningyu's strength, dealing with these peak 6th grade human supreme martial artists should be a piece of cake. Don't talk so much. Ningyu is dealing with Venerable Gong and the 7th grade pinnacle human sovereign realm unconscious Dan Kai. We're already considered very lucky to have stayed behind to deal with these 6th grade pinnacle human sovereign. The Talisman Supremacy was rather rational. She was clear that Ningyu was the true danger. Whether it was Supremacy Gong or the unconscious Dan Xiao, both of them were extremely powerful. The slightest carelessness and they would die without a burial. We can't carry on like this. We have to think of a countermeasure. The Dark Emperor's eyes rolled as he spoke. I know that we have to think of a way, but what can we think of? The Talisman Supremacy's face was cold. It was so much so that she felt a little regretful. She had left the 100 Flowers Palace to search for a cauldron for the Palace Lord. She had found the cauldron, but she had fallen into a deeper whirlpool. Don't be distracted. Seeing the Talisman Supremacy's dazed expression, the Dark Emperor immediately roared, "These fellows are all puppets. They won't give any face." Yes, yes. Hearing the Dark Emperor's roar, the Talisman Supremacy immediately reacted and fought with the peak 6th grade human supreme martial artist. Boom. Boom. However, the Dark Emperor and the Talisman Supremacy were already at the end of their tether. Even with their full strength, they couldn't withstand the attacks of a peak 6th grade human supreme martial artist. In a moment of carelessness, the Dark Emperor and the Talisman Supremacy were struck by the fists of the peak 6th grade human supreme martial artists and their bodies were like broken kites as they heavily fell onto the ground. Rustle. After pushing the Dark Emperor and the rest back, the 2 peak 6th grade human sovereigns instantly tore through space and appeared before the Dark Emperor and the rest at a terrifying speed. It's over. The Dark Emperor's pupils contracted as he felt despair in his heart. Right now, He had basically lost the qualification to fight with a peak 6th grade human sovereign. At this moment, he could even defeat or kill an ordinary 1st grade human sovereign. Buzz. Suddenly, the situation changed. The space in the distance suddenly split apart. A colossal creature appeared out of thin air. It's over, it's over. We're really done for this time. The Dark Emperor fell into complete despair at the sight of the massive creature in the distance. That's because the massive figure that appeared was the unconscious Dan Xiao. Furthermore, the cultivation of the unconscious Dan Xiao had reached the initial phase 8th grade human sovereign realm. Even he and the Talisman Supremacy couldn't deal with 2 peak 6th grade human sovereigns, not to mention the unconscious Dan Xiao. Roar. The unconscious Dan Xiao roared into the sky as it swiftly moved and appeared above the Dark Emperor. Crack. Crack. What happened next left the Dark Emperor widened his mouth and speechless for a long time. That's because the unconscious Dan Xiao had stretched out its hands and grabbed onto 2 peak 6th grade human sovereigns, tearing them into two. Gulp. The sudden change had caused disbelief to appear on the Dark Emperor's face. 2 pinnacle 6th grade sovereign realm human sovereigns were killed so easily. Crack. Crack. Furthermore, after killing the 2 peak 6th grade human sovereigns, the unconscious Dan Xiao flew to the side of the sapling and helped the sapling kill the other 2 peak 6th grade human sovereigns. Everything was over in a matter of seconds. The Dark Emperor stretched his right hand out and pointed at the unconscious Dan Xiao, stuttering as he spoke. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.